snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now we're joined now by Nigel Farage, the co-founder of the Azaylia Foundation, which was created due to the tragic passing of her 8-month-old daughter to leukemia. The foundation is doing some incredible work for children's cancer.
Yeah, some really incredible stuff. They've just launched a PhD even where they're funding young doctors to specialise in childhood cancer as, get this, I wasn't aware of this, it's one of the most underfunded areas in the NHS. So not many sectors choose to go down that route, unfortunately. The charity, the foundation, have donated over £1 million worth of equipment to hospitals as well, and we're delighted to welcome Sophia. You've turned a tragedy and grief into triumph, I guess, and something so inspiring. Just tell us about that. Do you recognise that in yourself and the work you're doing?
Yeah, I'm here to always honour my daughter and to always continue her name, her legacy, and to support all of these other children fighting against childhood cancer.
It was all over social media. I mean, you were, at one point, probably one of the most famous families in this country because of Azaylia and Azaylia's fight. When you look back now at that time, does it give you comfort that you had so many people behind you?
Absolutely. The community that we have got, the humanity that we've seen in the UK and all around the world, in fact, has really touched my heart, and that kindness, love and support has always been the backbone of carrying me through this, to give me hope, to give me belief, and it still inspires me and encourages me till today to continue to do that, to show that light, to show that courage and bravery.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. I hope you had a lovely Christmas. I am Nana Akua. We're live on GB News online and on digital radio. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Coming up in my Great British Debate, I'll be asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch after the Conservative leader accused Reform UK of faking its membership numbers? Well, I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. What do you think? Cast your vote. Then, difficult conversations. I'll be speaking to former prisoner turned entrepreneur and author Stephen Gillen about his thoughts on whether we should send more prisoners to open prisons in a bid for reducing re-offending. And in my niggle, I'll give you my top 5 hypocrites of 2024. That's eco-activist Just Stop Oil. But who would be your number one? Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon to you. Just coming up to 2 minutes past 3. Well, the top story today, Vladimir Putin has apologised to the president of Azerbaijan for what the Kremlin says was a tragic incident in Russian airspace involving a plane that crashed in Kazakhstan on Christmas Day, sadly killing 38 people. It comes after reports emerged that the United States had intelligence that indicated Russia had believed the flight was a drone and engaged its air defences. The aircraft is thought to have come under fire from Russia as it tried to land before being diverted across the Caspian Sea to Kazakhstan, where it later crashed. Nigel Farage says that Elon Musk is an absolute hero figure to younger voters and will help win over Reform UK voters. In an interview with The Telegraph, Farage said the billionaire was a huge help connecting young people with the party. Discussing rumours of a large donation to Reform, he said the tech mogul would give a reasonably sized amount, but added that it would need to be legal and above board. It comes after Nigel Farage has demanded an apology from Kemi Badenoch after a row over claims that Reform UK faked its membership numbers. The Conservative leader accused Mr Farage of fakery after Reform's online member tally overtook the last known number of registered Tory members. Flights have been cancelled and delayed across the country today as heavy fog affects visibility at UK airports, forcing a number of air traffic restrictions. Some areas have seen thick patches of fog, reducing visibility down to just 100 metres, according to the Met Office. Gatwick and Manchester, that's the second and third busiest airports in the country, are among those worst affected by the bad weather. Earlier, independent travel correspondent Simon Calder told us that people need to check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick, to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
It's being reported that Sir Keir Starmer has ordered Britain's key watchdogs to remove barriers to growth in a bid to kickstart the British economy. It's understood the Prime Minister has written to the UK's main watchdogs, asking them to come up with ideas for reform that could boost economic growth. He reportedly contacted the companies, including energy regulator Ofgem and water regulator Ofwat, on Christmas Eve. A woman has been charged with murdering a father of 6 on Christmas Day in Staffordshire. Police were called to a report of a man in cardiac arrest at about 3:25 a.m. on Wednesday. They said despite the best efforts of medical staff, he died a short time later. 33-year-old Kirsty Careless has now been charged with murdering 31-year-old Louis Price. GBNews can confirm that 1,300 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since Christmas Day, as hundreds more crossed today. It comes as the Home Office confirmed 305 arrived yesterday in 5 small boats. More than 400 also made illegal crossings on Boxing Day and 451 on Christmas Day. That now takes the total number who've arrived in the UK this year to more than 500,000, a 20% rise on last year's total. And US President-elect Donald Trump has made a last-minute plea to get the Supreme Court to delay an upcoming nationwide TikTok ban while he works on a political resolution. Congress had passed a law earlier this year banning the popular video-sharing app as of January the 19th. If it wasn't sold by its parent company in China, ByteDance, by then. US officials and lawmakers had accused ByteDance of being linked to the Chinese government, which the firm has strongly denied. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you for another roundup in around half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome. It's just coming up to 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, great, you tuned in at the right time. I'm Nana Akua, and we're live online on digital radio and on your TV right here, right now. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Coming up, my great British debate this hour. I'm asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch after the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, accused Reform UK of faking its membership numbers? Well, I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now. And then also coming up, we'll be discussing the significant channel crossings, the milestone which has revealed 150,000 of them have crossed to the UK since records began in only 2018, so just 6 years. That is including 1,300 illegals who have arrived since Christmas Day. And in my Royal Roundup, I'll be discussing Princess Catherine following her cancer diagnosis after being given the diagnosis earlier this year. Stay with me. We've got loads still to come as ever. Send me your thoughts. Post your comments. gbnews.com/your say. So GB News can exclusively reveal 1,300 illegal migrants. I know some people are calling them, what are they calling them? Some other name, not illegal migrants. It's undocumented or something like that. Have crossed the channel since Christmas Day, as hundreds more crossed today. Now, all of this follows a significant milestone announced by the Home Office that 150,000 have crossed the British Channel since records began in 2018. And in response to the figures, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philip called it an insult and said it's clear a new approach is needed. Now, the National Crime Agency said stopping channel migrants is not possible without a Rwanda-style scheme. Well, who would have thought it? It was a terrible mistake for Labour to cancel our deterrent before it even started. That's why crossings are up 20% since Labour came in. So joining me now, Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Thank you very much for joining me. Right, so let's have a chat. Good to talk to you. Speaking to Stephen Wolfe. Stephen Wolfe, talk to me. What is going on? Should they have scrapped Rwanda? Was that a mistake?
Hi, Nana. I hope you had a good Christmas as well. I know I forget my own name from time to time. Don't worry when I wake up first thing in the morning. No, I mean, of course, scrapping Rwanda was a terrible idea, and because it was the only real deterrence. And you've raised the numbers of over 150,000 have crossed the channel by the small boats since 2018. And if you put that in context, that's like a city the size of Portsmouth Unitary Authority or Gateshead, for example. That ignores those that have come across in other ways, whether they've come on planes, and also those who are still coming on the backs of lorries, less so, but that adds numbers. And it also excludes those who've come here on visas then overstayed. If you add those numbers up, you're getting including double that. So deterrence was a crucial element. Rwanda was a major part of that if it was allowed to get off the ground. And now you have the body set up by the Labour Party admitting that you will not be able to stop the boats or indeed stop the criminals unless you have such a Rwanda-style deterrence. That's what I want to see from the Labour Party this year. I don't hold my breath that they'll have a deterrence policy, but everybody now informs them, including those in the European Union, that they need something like that. So let's see if Phelps and the team at the Home Office who are dealing with it now can actually conjure up a deterrence policy for 2025.
Well, you know, having looked at a lot of the policies that they've conjured up, like the farmers, which is it's just not going to work, is it? It's ridiculous. And even their own trade unions, the trade unions who donate money to the Labour Party, are now also all turning their backs on it. I don't see that Rachel Reeves is prepared to do anything or change anything, which I think, or Keir Starmer, which I think is utter madness. Is there anything that they could be doing, in your view, that would be something that would stop this other than a Rwanda-style deterrent? Because they've obviously dismissed it.
Well, if you start from the principle that in order to stop the boats coming over, you have to look at where the source is coming from, and that is France. And here we have a situation where Keir Starmer says he's a friend of Europe. He is best friends with Scholz in Germany, and he's a great mate of Macron in France. So if he was really able to do a deal with the French to stop them from allowing the boats to continue to be to actually step up their game, accept the money that we've given them in good faith and actually do the job properly. And I will say that they have improved a little bit over the year. I won't be overly critical, but they're still not doing enough. I think they're just doing enough to make people feel as though they are doing something. That would be his first and most important part. The second thing would be to look at the way that you deal with those coming across on the boats. And you raised an important point, the language. I still refer to them as illegal immigrants until the time that they claim asylum. So the moment that they get on the boats in France, they're illegal. They only start to become part of the process when they claim asylum. And that is to look at what's happening under Stephen Miller, the advisor on immigration for Donald Trump. And that is to start getting the language as tougher, but also the way that they deal with the deterrence, and that's deportation. So I perhaps will use a word that not many people like to use, but I think it's the language that people smugglers will understand, and that's internment. That is actually the building of camps in places where they will go to and not have nice hotels, not have good accommodation, but actually be placed on uncomfortable camps whilst they're making those claims. Some will say that's an internment camp. Well, maybe that's the language that's needed for those who are profiting from this when they're trying to sell and market the product of channel crossings will start to understand. And certainly that's the language that's starting to come out of the Trump government to be. And I think they'll continue to do that. So that is something he could do, but I don't think he will. And the third thing, Nana, which is really crucial, is to try and change the principles that have been set into our common law through the European Courts of Human Rights, the ECHR, and remove ourselves from that. Absolutely no way would Keir Starmer, who profited from not only himself and helped build these chambers on being a human rights lawyer, relying on the ECHR, they're not going to stop their own profit margins by removing the ECHR. So all the three things that could be done, he won't do. And that's why next year you'll see even more numbers coming through.
Well, he would probably argue that he's a human rights lawyer and that he is following the laws of the land. So rather than profiteering, he's just doing his job. But others may see it very differently.
No, I perfectly accept that. And that's a key principle of our legal system, that you have legal aid in these cases to do that. But there are those, when you look at following the money, there's always an argument when you worked in the City of London. It was what, follow the money, follow the trail of where that it comes in. And money actually can corrupt you either positively, negatively, or just tangentially. It's just an idea that I don't want to hurt my own back pocket. So following the law is the ECHR. The ECHR comes into our common law. Remove the ECHR, then you have the difficult stage of having to change our own legislation to remove that from our common law. If they did that, which I doubt that they will, that would start to enable ourselves to look at the claims themselves and reduce the numbers who currently get the right to remain on the discretionary element that the Home Office has created on the back of common law and ECHR.
Yeah, well, obviously, there's, again, no suggestion there's any corruption involved, but I hear...
Oh, of course not, absolutely.
But I hear the point that you are making,
why would it be?
That indirectly, if something is benefiting you, then why would you change it? I hear you. Stephen Wolfe, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is, of course, Stephen Wolfe. You see, I got his name right in the end. See, he's a political commentator. Right, well, stay with me. We've got loads still to come on GBN News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, if you've just tuned in, don't forget you can also download the GBN News app where you can watch all of the programmes on the channel completely free, or why not watch us and stream the show on YouTube. Well, stay with me because Nigel Farage has demanded an apology from Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch after she accuses Reform UK Party of faking its membership numbers. Now, Kemi Badenoch alleges that the digital counter on the Reform UK website was rigged to tick up automatically, as it now shows the party has more members than the Tories. And as a result, the Reform leader has refused to rule out legal action, as multiple investigations by UK medias have now seemed to verify the figures. So here on GB News yesterday, here is Nigel hitting out at the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch.
You know, I don't mind all sorts of comments being made about me, but to be accused by her of being a fraudster, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let this rest.
Well, joining me now, political commentator Suzanne Evans. Suzanne, thank you very much for joining me. Happy Christmas.
Christmas, Nana.
Now, what do you think of this? Should Nigel Farage be looking at taking legal action against Kemi Badenoch if there is any, if what she said is deemed to be completely incorrect?
Well, if she's wrong and fails to apologise, then yeah, I think that's possibly a thing to do. This is real popcorn, isn't it? Who's right, who's wrong here? As you just said, Nana, there have been various media organisations that have now gone in and had a look at the kind of back operation of this counter, which is counting Reform membership, and they do seem to have drawn the opinion that actually it isn't fake, that it is completely genuine, and that indeed, yes, Reform have beaten the Tories in terms of membership, which in itself is absolutely staggering. If that is correct, it means that basically the youngest parliamentary party in British politics has actually outstripped membership of one of the oldest political parties in the world. So this really is a massive story here. And the fight that we've now got between Farage and Badenoch really is quite serious and heating up. But what I also can't understand is first of all, why would Kemi Badenoch make that sort of allegation if it was wrong? She's not stupid. She knows the law of the land. It's a really stupid, immature thing to do. But the other thing is, why is she so focused on Reform's membership? What she should be doing is focusing on the Conservative policies and attacking Keir Starmer as the official party of opposition in the House of Commons. And I think for the Conservatives, this is really all a bit of a sideshow that they shouldn't have got themselves involved with, really. I think it's very bad luck for Kemi Badenoch. She's not got off to a good start as Conservative Party leader. And I think, I'm afraid, unless she is proven to be right, and right now that doesn't look to be the case, I'm not saying it isn't, but it doesn't look to be the case, but unless she's proven to be right on this, I think she's got herself into some serious hot water.
Could she have a point, though? Because some of the people joining the party, if they are from other countries, is that counted? And you know what I mean? Or is it? Do they have to be British people joining the membership? Would it force Nigel to show the actual, who is from where joining the party?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question, isn't it, about who joins what political parties from where? But as I understand it, that's not what Kemi Badenoch's complaining about. She's complaining about the fact that this website is rigged, effectively. That's her allegation, that it's based on a clock that's just ticking up numbers at random and isn't related to the actual number of people who are signing up and paying their money and joining Reform UK. And that is a very serious allegation because, as Nigel Farage said, now you can't libel a political party. I think I'm right in saying that, that you can attack a political party and it doesn't necessarily count as libel, but you can libel individuals. And of course, what Farage is saying in attacking Reform, Kemi Badenoch is attacking him personally and calling him basically a liar and a fraudster who's been very dishonest. And of course, he's absolutely right to be angry about that. I mean, who wouldn't be? And this has become such a public spat now. But again, I go back to what I was saying earlier. It's a complete own goal for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives. They shouldn't have touched this with a barge pole. They should have said, something like, yes, we see that Reform is doing well. And whether or not they're getting more members or not, the polling is quite clear. Election results are quite clear. Polling in Scotland suggests they've beaten the Conservatives there. Polling in Wales suggests that they've drawn level with the Conservatives in Scotland and that they're beating the Conservatives in Wales. Reform have had a series of very good council by-election wins in Wolverhampton, in Kent, on Merseyside. Every council by-election where Reform is standing, they have rocketed up the list of the order of the rankings, if you like, up by about 33%, which is what they surged to win in Kent. So membership or not, they're doing incredibly well. Labour support is falling away. As I said, Kemi Badenoch hasn't really seized the initiative since she's become the Conservative leader. And this is what she should be worried about. She should be worried about Reform basically stepping into the Conservative Party's shoes. She should be taking advantage of the way in which Labour are completely disintegrating. Their policies are proving so unpopular, even with people who voted Labour in the general election. Why on earth is she not focused on doing something about that instead of talking about a single website, which she doesn't like very much, whatever the rights and wrongs?
The point you've made there is that she's talking about a single website. She's not talking about Nigel Farage personally or individually. So she's made it quite clear that she's talking about Reform UK. So isn't this a bit of a waste of time for Nigel to even bother engaging in it? Really, to say that if she doesn't apologise that he might take legal action and all that, because, as you said, you can't libel a political party anyway, and this is not a personal attack. Very briefly, Suzanne, sorry, I've only got about 30 seconds. But
That's okay. It's because, no, it's gold dust for Nigel because he can use it to get more publicity for him and more publicity for Form. And that's why he's pushing this line, even if he knows in his heart of hearts that legally he might not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, you see, very clever. Thank you very much, Suzanne Evans. Really good to talk to you. That's political commentator Suzanne Evans. It's 21 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch? This is GB News.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
It seems that the younger generation's interest in literature is waning. Academics argue that educational policies have failed to encourage reading for pleasure, contributing to declining numbers of English literature students and a shift towards young adult books rather than classic novels. According to 2023 figures from the National Literacy Trust, the number of 8 to 18-year-olds who say they enjoy reading has sunk to its lowest level for almost 20 years, with a quarter fewer reading each day over that same time period. To share more with us about this topic, I'm joined now by the journalist Charlotte Lytton. Charlotte, welcome back. Lovely to talk to you again. Tell us your perspective on this issue. What is happening?
Well, speaking to academics, we can't deny, it seems, that there is a big problem here, and it starts right at school. As you read there, young children simply don't enjoy reading for pleasure as they did before. We can't deny that is also a massive part because of smartphones, because kids now are faced with all of these things vying for their attention. They just don't have to sit down and entertain themselves with a long book and nothing else as they did before. As we see from those figures with people going to study humanities at university, the decline is just going all the way because people simply are not interested in reading for pleasure as they were.
Do you get any feeling that education policy or that teachers are taking steps to counter this?
Well, there is a review of the curriculum going ahead right now, but school is a huge part of it. One of the things that has come up in this conversation is whether teachers now are dealing with crowd control, which means they can't simply encourage reading for pleasure because they're simply trying to get a hold of the students they have.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, welcome. Happy Christmas. See, Nana Nicey is here. 25 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch? The Reform UK leader has threatened to take action against the Conservative leader if she fails to apologise for accusing him of publishing a fake ticker showing Reform UK's membership increasing, overtaking the Conservatives. Now, obviously, it's not him personally, it is the party that she's talking about when she says Reform UK. So she hasn't directly said Nigel Farage. That, I think, is an important thing to note. But would he be wise to take on Kemi Badenoch? Or is she wise to be bothering to take on him? Because literally everyone who's tried it has failed. Let's start with the EU. That didn't work out well. Then ITV, who thought that they would get him on I'm a Celebrity, only everybody loved him because he's a very charming person. And now Kemi Badenoch, I'm not sure. Oh, don't forget Dame Alison Rose, Nat West. She no longer works for them. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch? Joining me, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. I'll start with you, Alex Cairns.
Well, look, I think it's interesting because I've seen this play out. I do think that both of them, there's a lot of it's kind of like playground arguing, isn't it, really, where both of them feel threatened by each other, right? They're both going after the same kind of base voter. And actually, it's interesting because in the next election, those two are going to be going literally head-to-head to convince people on the right. You know, there will be some swing voters that potentially like both of them. You know, there'll be some Reform voters that maybe voted tactically in some seats. There'll be some Tory voters that were so frustrated with the Tory party switched to Reform. And literally, they're going to be going after the same base. So I'm not surprised.
Are they though, really? I mean, are the Conservatives going after young people?
Well, I mean, look, the idea that
Labour also going for Reform UK, so a lot of because Labour was supposed to be working class, but they're not really, are they?
Well, we're gonna disagree on that, right? I know that they've got some rich donors, but they still, you know, at their core, they still obviously want to help, you know, the workers' rights bill. They still want to help, you know, working class people.
Really, farmers? Are they not working class?
Well, I know that we always get back to farmers, right? But no, look, the reality is they've made some tough decisions. But on the specific thing you're talking about, I don't think the idea that Farage having a few young people that want to take a selfie means that now every single 18 to 25-year-old is going to vote for them. You know,
specifically going for the young people's vote. And there's a lot of young people who I've spoken to who really think Reform UK are amazing because Nigel is taken on TikTok as well. Lee Harris.
I think if she does not apologise, then Nigel should take legal action.
But it's not against him personally.
Well, I'll read you the tweet. Manipulating your own supporters at Christmas, Nigel? I think that's pretty direct, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, but she kind of says that it's after the party and the Reform. Yeah, I mean, she's treading on thin ice.
She's treading on thin ice. Now, I know a tiny little bit about this, and the terminology that Kemi used in that tweet is a bit revealing by saying that it's not real, it's a fake ticker coded to tick up automatically. We've been watching the back end for days. Now, if you know anything about that, using the word back end is more of a sort of description of logging into the back end of a website, having access to secure data. So it was very suspicious to me. Now, I've been a dev for a while.
I was a dev?
A developer. Right. So that's my background. Within 5 minutes, I was able to see that there was a conditional function that was looking at... it was grabbing data via an API. So you could immediately tell in less than
What's an API?
An API is just a way of getting data from a completely different location from a website, predominantly securely. So there'll be like a token that's required to get the data, and it will regularly grab data from a source. So you could immediately tell, in less than 5 minutes, that what she was saying was completely false. And to say that she's been watching the back end for data, what have you been watching, Kemi? Because all you're doing is looking at the source code of a website. So you're literally viewing the source code of a website. That doesn't tell you anything. And this data she would not have access to. The membership data that was clearly calling, and you could see that in the code, was calling it from completely different secure locations. So she would not have known. She just had no access to the numbers. So what she was saying was absolutely ludicrous. It really did wind me up because I knew a little bit about what she was talking about. For her to make that accusation, I think is incredibly serious. To say that Nigel is... Because I'm one of the people that have been...
You're a staunch Conservative Party voter, and I was able to switch you literally in a few moments, speaking to you.
I think on this show, wasn't it?
Well, I wasn't trying to switch you, but, you know...
No, I mean, I was a member of the Conservative Party, and... excuse me, and because of the lies over 14 years of telling us that they were going to reduce immigration, and then finding out that the straw that broke the camel's back for me was finding out that after Boris got into office, after telling us in the 2019 manifesto that he was going to bring down immigration, the first thing he did when he got into office was lower the salary threshold and open the floodgates. And I was like, well, that's it. You know, if you're literally going to lie to your supporters, and I was a big Boris fan, not anymore, although I still respect the guy. But yeah, that was my switch over to Reform. But yeah, no, Kemi needs to apologise, otherwise she's I think they should take legal action.
Alex, do you think that he's right with that? I mean, it's quite serious if someone is saying they looked at the back end, they think they've seen it, a fake ticker that's ticking up numbers.
If every single person that tweets anything is sued, I mean, the reality is, like, yeah, the wording was poor. I agree with you. There's no way that her team have access to the back end, right?
That's a lie. That feels like a lie.
But lots of politicians lie, and we're not going to start. We're not going to go back through.
Maybe she has got another source, though. We don't know that.
Well, okay, so
there is a source.
That's true. Maybe someone inside his team or the wider team. Yeah, well, maybe someone has leaked some data, right? But again, the broader point here is that those two are going to be going at it for many years because they're going after the same base. You know, and Nigel's so rattled, maybe actually he is faking the numbers. I wouldn't be surprised, you know?
No.
You know, it's not the first time that he's been disingenuous.
Well, hold on.
By who?
By The Telegraph, by The Spectator.
Oh, by The Telegraph. Oh, so The Telegraph say it must be true
By
then.
Sky News, who did a big... they had their tech team go in, they sat them down, they had their coders sit down and explain to them exactly how that data is getting to the website. That number on the ticker is accurate, and that has been independently verified. They've also offered an audit by one of the big four. There is absolutely no way Nigel Farage would fake those numbers. It's just too dangerous.
But why is he so rattled then about it?
He's not rattled.
He is rattled. I saw the interview. He's so rattled.
Hold on. If somebody said that you had done something that you hadn't, and your party had done something that you hadn't,
himself.
What would you do? Would you sit there and allow it, or would you?
I'll just come out and say it's not true.
Well, he has done.
But in the I saw the interview. He's absolutely rattled. He's acting like someone's gone after his family. I mean, the tweet is ill-advised, yeah, but
you're not. But you're not supposed to be able to just make up stuff and then get away with it. So why is he wrong to insist that that person acknowledges they got it wrong and apologises?
A lot of people.
Should she apologise?
Well, look, I'm not going to... I don't know. Maybe she's got some ill advice there. I think she should potentially look at the word... I think she should look at the wording about it. But again, I haven't seen these independent reports that you're talking about. So no one at the moment knows if the number's true or not.
But just because you haven't seen it, and it's happened, and it's said that there's not really any way that it could have been fudged, should she now apologise at this point? Or perhaps explain to us how she's looked at the back end of it?
She should probably explain, you know, the logic behind the tweet. And look, if she can't, and if she's come out and actually said that potentially I was wrong, then yeah, she should apologise. But Farage, she should apologise for lots of other things, by the way, like taking us out of the European Union, for starters.
Well, that's what you think, but a lot of people...
A lot of people agree with me.
It wasn't Farage who did that, by the way. It was a democratic vote. And actually, it was David Cameron who put the referendum...
Was under pressure, yeah. But Farage was the... Come on, Farage pushed Cameron into a corner, let's be honest.
No, listen...
After the 2014 European election, Nana, you've got to admit...
People should take responsibility for their own thing. So whether someone's pushed you, whether you think you're under pressure or whatever decision you make is your call. It's not somebody else's. All right, we'll stay with us. This is GBNews. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. Coming up, it's time for a second Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, were Labour wrong to scrap the Rwanda plan? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. It is just after 3:30. The top story from the newsroom. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologised to Azerbaijan for a Christmas Day plane crash that killed 38 people, but he stopped short of admitting that Russia was to blame. The aircraft, reportedly hit by shrapnel from Russian air defence systems, crash-landed in Kazakhstan after being forced to divert from Chechnya. Ukraine's President Zelensky has accused Moscow of spreading disinformation, saying the damage resembled a missile strike. US officials also say Russia is responsible, while Azerbaijan believes the crash was caused by external interference. Investigations are now underway, with multiple teams examining the site. Nigel Farage says that Elon Musk is an absolute hero to young voters and claims he'll help Reform UK win them over. In an interview with The Telegraph, the Reform UK leader hinted that Musk could make a reasonable-sized donation, insisting, though, it would be legal and above board. It comes as Farage demands an apology from Kemi Badenoch after she accused Reform UK of faking membership numbers. The Tory leader says Reform's online tally, overtaking registered Tory member numbers, smells of fakery, she said. Farage has denied the claims and called them baseless. Flights disrupted by heavy fog are causing chaos at UK airports today. Dozens of flights at Heathrow and Gatwick have been cancelled or delayed, with air traffic restrictions in place due to poor visibility. The knock-on effects from Friday's delays mean planes and pilots are now out of position, leaving some passengers stranded. Well, earlier travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, told us people must check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
And boost growth or get out of the way. That is the message from Sir Keir Starmer to UK regulators. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and Business Secretary have asked watchdogs, including Ofgem and Ofwat, to propose pro-growth reforms by mid-January. It follows figures showing the UK economy flatlined between July and September. Labour says it's pulling every lever to deliver the highest sustained economic growth in the G7. But the Conservatives blame the government's policies for stalling progress. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup at the top of the hour, and Nana will be back with you after this break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around, but already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here, but still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places, and really it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing, but further south a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon we should see brighter skies developing, and with the increase in sunshine we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground, and that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, but potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is a GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. If you just tuned in, Happy Christmas. Yeah, it's great. It's time now for the Great British Debate This Out, and I'm asking, were Labour wrong to scrap the Rwanda plan? Yesterday, it announced that over 150,000 migrants have arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel in small boats since records began in 2018. And in response to the news, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, called it an insult and said stopping Channel migrants is not possible without a Rwanda-style scheme. It was a terrible mistake for Labour to cancel it. So for the Great British Debate This Hour, I'm asking, were Labour wrong to scrap the Rwanda plan? Joining me now, political commentator Lee Harris, also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Lee Harris, I'm going to start with you.
Of course they're wrong. Look, there was a lot wrong with the Rwanda plan. I was partially against it when they were trying to get it through Parliament, because Rishi Sunak watered it down so much that it was going to end up being held up in the courts. There was always going to be these court cases that probably would have ended up grounding the flights. So what I'm trying to make clear is that the Rwanda plan that was going through Parliament was flawed. It was not going to work. But the principle of having a deterrent was the right thing to do. And in fact, there's evidence that it was already starting to work, because we were having illegal migrants that were making their way over to Ireland, Northern Ireland, and their own officials over there were picking up on it from talking to them. So it was having an impact. So they were wrong. Labour just were ideologically against it from the start. So they scrapped it without any logic behind it at all. And then what happened? Was it Keir Starmer went over to Germany, and the German Chancellor said, well, thank you very much. Now you taxpayers, you British taxpayers, have paid all that money for those lovely facilities. We're going to use them. And now the rest of Europe is looking at third-party processing to do exactly the same thing. It does work would have worked as a deterrent done properly, and our security services agree that, and to scrap it without any other plan. Smashing the gangs on its own is not going to work.
Alex Cairns.
I actually don't agree. I think the deterrent is that lots of people are using criminal gangs to basically pay them thousands of pounds to get over here. If Labour is saying we're going to actually try and attack the source of the problem is twofold. One, safe and legal routes for people to apply. They wouldn't be coming over on small boats had the Home Office not been in such a mess for so many years. And secondly, they're paying criminal gangs that are basically exploiting these poor people.
What are the Albanians?
The inhumane...
Hold on, what about the Albanians? There's lots of people in the Vietnamese who are all coming over in their droves. There's no persecution going on there.
The majority of people that are coming over on small boats, Nana, you know this.
No, don't tell me what I know. You don't know what I know.
But we've discussed this. Well, you know, we've looked at the stats before, and actually, it's very much about the fact that the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all of these countries that have multiple geopolitical issues are coming over on small boats. Why? Because they can't get visa applications through quickly enough.
We have deals with people from Afghanistan, so we do have deals. Even when we've got deals with people, they're still using the small boats. So what you're saying doesn't really make sense, because even though we have got a deal for migrants from Afghanistan, we do. And we can't send them back anyway. Why are they going via a small boat? Why would you come via a small boat if there is actually a safe and legal route for you to apply for safe refuge in this country? Why would you take a small boat?
Because it's taking too long, and they're living in very difficult conditions that none of us can relate to.
You just said that safe and legal routes was the answer. So I said, well, they have safe and legal routes, and they're not using safe and legal routes. And now you're saying that, well, you've got another excuse for why they're...
No, I don't have an excuse. I'm saying that there are two things happening. One, on the safe and legal routes, the backlog is very big. And then two, other people just can't physically apply. They don't have the technology, they don't have the know-how, so they can't do it. So they're being exploited by criminal gangs.
But they've got £5 to pay for a criminal gang to leave the safety of France.
That's probably...
To leave the safety of France.
It's not a welcoming country. These people are living in these ridiculous camps.
OK, so
it's inhumane, Nana.
So you're saying that actually they're not really fleeing persecution. They don't like the conditions they're in, so they want a nicer place. So they come to the UK. So perhaps we need to make...
It's a mixture of both.
There's no deterrent, is there? We're actually inviting these people in by making it so nice for them that they all want to stay. So they'll actually leave the safety, which was their #1 priority of France, to come here for our wonderful, wonderful facilities. I think you've just proved the point here.
Yeah, they're predominantly economic migrants.
They're economic migrants.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
I didn't say that.
You said...
I said there's a multitude of factors. I didn't say all of them are economic migrants.
No, they predominantly are, though.
But there's no evidence to suggest that.
You just said the conditions were so bad where they are that they wanted better conditions.
Why would they travel so far if they just want to be in a hotel in the United Kingdom?
Well, why would they not use the safe and legal route provided for
Because it takes too long for them.
I'll tell you why they want to come here.
Things.
They want to come here because we provide the best benefits.
Yeah.
The pull factors for this country are huge. They know they're going to get put up in a hotel, they're going to get a weekly allowance, they're going to get free healthcare, free dentistry, they're going to get... in fact, they'll get treated better than our veterans, and I think that's an absolute disgrace.
Better than most of us.
Better than most of us.
An appointment with the doctor.
And they'll get put up in a lovely hotel, and there is a huge pull factor because of that.
All right, well, listen, if you really want to go somewhere else, and a lovely, lovely winter destination, you're looking for some winter sun, here are the forecasts of some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
There's a lot of fine weather to come across many of the usual holiday hotspots in southern Europe through the next few days. A different story across the southeast of Europe, though. Here's Storm Elena bringing some heavy rain, strong winds across parts of Greece into Cyprus and into Turkey as well. Elsewhere, though, like I said, lots of dry weather on offer, and with that, lots of sunshine too. So not looking too bad at all if you're heading across many parts of southern Europe through the next couple of days. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Oh, this discussion, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to read some of them out in a moment. But coming up, Royal Roundup, I'll be taking a look at the difficult year the Princess Catherine and the other members of the royal family have been having. Stay tuned.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recruiters are warning that if you're not tech savvy, you could be missing out with your CV failing to make it through an AI-powered sifting process. So we've gone from sort of computer says no HR people ticking boxes to AI, right? Is that right?
Yes, well, this applies once you're in the job as well, as a recent report revealed that employees expect AI will manage an average of a third of their tasks within the next 12 months. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Cosmo Curry, founder of Van Kuysen, a leading company in technology recruitment.
Morning, Cosmo.
Morning. Good morning. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI is, of course, on the rise, and now in the workplace and in universities and things. Another article came to mind. There was a student recently, I think it was in the news just the other day, that got in trouble for using AI. So there's, you know, for exam purposes and essays. So there's lots of different ways that it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But you're, of course, here to talk about the ways in which AI is a good thing within the workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is here to stay, for sure. And we're seeing this rise of people using it in such a clever format. And the other side of it is also we're seeing people who are using it and during the process of that, they are losing their character. We're losing the actual insight into the individual behind that. And so we've kind of got this kind of mix. And I think AI is phenomenal when you're looking at it from a point of view of optimization, point of view of speed, getting results. But I think we have to remember that, you know, the fundamental of recruitment is people. And we cannot substitute the people, the personal aspect, by replacing that with AI.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon. This is Britain's News Channel. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome aboard. We are GB News. Right. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Joining me as well, my panel, Alex Cairns and also Lee Harris. Yes. Right. So listen, Dan Thornton says, great show again, Nana. I love it when you're so assertive, especially in that hot dress. Keep it up, Nana. God, there's a little fire flame there as well. I like that one. Now, Wix says, Alex, why don't they stay in France? We're talking about migration, people getting on dinghies. Wix says, why don't they stay in France? Safe country, after all. Oh, yes, not the same benefits.
That's exactly right.
They want to be welcomed into a country where they've probably got, you know, family, relatives. They know it's a welcoming country. France is not welcoming, so it's not safe for them, you know? They don't want to live in a tent.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Do you know what? Could you two live in a tent permanently?
That's not the point.
No, it is the point.
No, it isn't the point, because I'm not fleeing persecution. I'm staying in my country and I'm building a living and a life for myself. If I was fleeing persecution from the country, I would take any shelter and I'd be grateful that I have some form of
temporarily.
Shelter and I'm safe.
Yeah, temporarily they take shelter there. Well, no one's disputing that. But long term, they're not going to live in a tent, are they? Well, then hopefully France will find them some accommodation. Yeah, hopefully, and they're not going to. That's the reason they come to the UK.
But hang on, you're not entitled to anything, and we need to prove that you're valid to be in this country anyway.
They're human beings. The majority of the Brits...
I know they're human beings. Don't teach me to suck eggs. I know what people are. Goodness sake. Tanky says, as ex-military, there are migrants stepping over veterans sleeping in hotel entrances. It's disgusting.
100%.
Yeah.
That's the bit that gets me, is we have a lot of people... We can't even afford to keep our elderly warm this winter, and yet we're spending billions on hotels for people who have absolutely no right to be here.
Exactly. All right, Grumpy Grandad said, why do these lefties want to flood the nation with even more people? Surely they can see the damage it's doing. Don't they love their nation? Or are they happy to see it destroyed? I mean, there are a lot of people here. You've got to accept. And Reeb says, I'm a taxpayer. I do not consent to my tax paying for this, and I do not support safe and legal routes to every country. I wish to restrict it to very few. Welcome, she says on the end of that. And there's also been quite a few comments with regard to Kemi Badenoch as well, saying that perhaps they should just grow up. Do you think that that's fair?
I mean, no, it's not fair. Absolutely not. And I was quite pleased, Nana, to be the one that community noted Kemi Badenoch. So if you have a look at her post, you'll see that she now has a community note, and rightly so. She, in my personal opinion, lied. By the way she worded that post, by saying that she was watching the back end, she was watching nothing in the back end. And if I personally was directly accused of fraud and deception as the leader of a political party, I would demand an apology or I would take legal action. I think that's perfectly normal behaviour in response to such a serious accusation. She messed up and she needs to apologise.
Well, look, she may have some other information, some insider information. I don't know. Nobody knows whether there's some other information that she's received that she can see the back end of what's going on. So I'll be loath to call her, say she's lied at this stage, because, there may be some other information.
I'll call her a liar.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait and see. I don't know if either side are lying,
But do you think that they're being a bit childish?
Yes, I do.
You do.
They're both being childish.
Well,
big egos, They're both rattled.
She started it.
She started it.
Exactly my point. He started it.
He's got more followers than me. What do you think?
Who's going to win the election?
Stay with us, because we've got loads still to come, including my niggle, my top 5 hypocrites of 2024. But let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around. But already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here. But still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places. And really, it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing. But further south, a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon, we should see brighter skies developing. And with the increase in sunshine, we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland, we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground. And that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, with potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff.
And my name is Julie, and we won $25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Donna Ida, who joins us now. And Donna, you look spectacular in your gorgeous denim jumpsuit.
Thank you.
And accessories. And it's important, isn't it, sometimes, just to keep things simple?
I always keep things simple. I travel a lot, I work long hours, and I don't want to think too much about what I'm wearing. So for me, one and done is perfect. Good accessories, fresh hair, nice makeup, and you can go anywhere, including GB News when you didn't know what was happening.
There we go.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Straight off the plane.
Can we ask you some of our top denim questions?
Yes.
Because Stephen Dixon, the presenter of The Breakfast Show who's just on, said that double denim to him is an absolute no-go.
Oh, what does
Is that true?
Don't have him on again, darling.
OK. We're telling me
I love double denim.
Really?
I love it. I think it is so cool.
Does it have to be a different
I was going to say double denim, same colours.
Or same
I like the... For me, I actually do like the same. Think Saint Laurent 70s. There's an amazing one that we're doing that's going to look great on you in the new season. The Joan Jean, we've got the City Slicker shirt. Oh, it's amazing. If it's done well, it's perfect. And I like it in a paler blue, but a good mid to dark. Very chic.
You go.
No, well, I was just thinking, little old me, not quite sure
You'd look amazing,
what to wear this morning. How
was a
do
bit
guys
stressed.
pull off denim?
For me, if I was dressing you, I would have put you in a pair of jeans this morning with his amazing jumper. Gorgeous watch.
Black, blue?
Black denim I do like. Men don't like it so much. Men like charcoal denim.
Oh, I don't like grey.
Charcoal. I love grey, and the best seller for men is charcoal denim.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Lee Harris and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Coming up in the Great British Debate, I was asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch after the Conservative leader accused Reform UK of faking its membership numbers? There's a poll-up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote. Then coming up in Difficult Conversations, I'll be speaking to former prisoner-turned-entrepreneur and author Stephen Gillen about his thoughts on whether we should send more prisoners to open prisons in a bid to reducing re-offending. Then in my niggle, which is coming up next, I would like to go through my top 5 list of hypocrites of 2024. Those are the squeals of Just Stop Oil as they chuck ink at a painting. But who would be your number one? But before we get started, let's get the latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. It is just coming up to 2 minutes past 4. Well, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologised to Azerbaijan today for a Christmas Day plane crash that sadly killed 38 people, but he did stop short of admitting that Russia was to blame. The aircraft, reportedly hit by shrapnel from Russian air defence systems, crash-landed in Kazakhstan after being forced to divert. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of spreading disinformation, saying the damage resembled a missile strike. US officials also say Russia is responsible, while Azerbaijan believes the crash was caused by external interference. Investigations are now underway, with multiple teams examining the site. Nigel Farage says that Elon Musk is an absolute hero to young voters and claims he'll help Reform UK to win them over. In an interview with The Telegraph, the Reform UK leader hinted that Mr Musk could make a reasonable-sized donation, insisting it would be legal and above board. It comes as Farage demands an apology from Kemi Badenoch after she accused Reform UK of faking their membership numbers. The Tory leader says that Reform's online tally overtaking registered Tory members, she says, smells of fakery. Farage, though, has denied those claims, calling them baseless. Flights disrupted by heavy fog are causing chaos at UK airports. Dozens of flights at Heathrow and Gatwick have been cancelled or delayed, with air traffic restrictions in place because of poor visibility. The knock-on effects from Friday's delays now mean planes and pilots are out of position, leaving some passengers stranded. Earlier, the independent travel correspondent Simon Calder told us people need to check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick, to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
Boost growth or get out of the way. That is the message from Sir Keir Starmer to UK regulators. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and Business Secretary have all asked watchdogs, including Ofgem and Ofwat, to propose pro-growth reforms by mid-January. It follows figures showing the UK economy flatlined between July and September. Labour, though, says it is pulling every lever to deliver the highest sustained economic growth in the G7. But the Conservatives blame the Labour government's policies for stalling progress. 1,300 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since Christmas Day, as hundreds more crossed today. It comes as the Home Office also confirmed 305 arrived by 5 small boats just yesterday. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has blamed Sir Keir Starmer for scrapping Tory measures like the Rwanda plan, saying that Labour's approach is an insult to the British people. The Prime Minister, though, has promised to smash the gangs behind the crossings, but more than 22,000 people have now arrived since he took office. That is up 25% on last year. And would you believe it? Easter eggs are already hitting the supermarket shelves before New Year's Eve even. Spotted in stores like Tesco, Morrison's and Sainsbury's, customers have taken to social media to share their surprise, with one user joking Jesus hasn't even been born yet. While some shoppers called it superficial and consumerist, others saw it as forward-thinking from big brands preparing early for Easter on the 20th of April. Too soon or savvy planning? You decide. I'm not quite sure. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Here are my top 5 hypocrites of 2024. To be fair, there were so many that it was actually quite tricky to pick the worst offenders. But let's start with number 5, former Transport Secretary Louise Haigh.
Completely at a loss to understand how he can possibly pretend that he hasn't. His pathetic non-apology in the House of Commons today was a total slap in the face to the British public, and the only question he should now answer is when he will resign.
Yes, when should Boris Johnson resign? Because she was basically talking about Boris and saying how he has done something, he's lied and done stuff that was totally wrong, and he has a criminal conviction or a conviction of sorts because he had to pay a fine because he ate some cake. But it turned out that Louise has a conviction of her own, albeit a spent one. Back in the day, Louise claimed that she'd been robbed and her work mobile phone half-inched. However, she apparently found it and did not report this to her bosses at Aviva. She was charged with fraud by misrepresentation. Oops. At number 4 is Labour MP Dawn Butler. Now, Dawn appears to see racism in everything.
The New Age of Empire, page 95, tells us exactly what's happening. This is Why I Resist by Dr. Shola, page 103, explains about racial gatekeepers that Musa Okwangas from Byline Times talks about. And my question to the Minister is, the government briefed a clear message well in advance of this report landing. Why did the government do that?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think it is disgusting that a member of this House will stand up and accuse people of being racial gatekeepers. This is the same nonsense we have heard time and time again, calling people Uncle Toms, calling people house Negroes and house slaves, and calling them racial gatekeepers. The fact that she is able to stand here and use that phrase without any shame whatsoever just shows how far the Labour Party has fallen.
Outrageous. After constantly complaining about racism, Dawn shared a post describing Kemi Badenoch as the most prominent member of white supremacy's black collaborator class, which, in my view, is a tad racist. The tweet she shared was posted on X shortly before the Tory leadership contest result was announced. Dawn deleted it pretty sharpish when it may have dawned on her, pardon the pun, that it was a bad idea. The tweet offered some handy tips for surviving the immediate surge of Badenoch, which was white supremacy in blackface. I mean, you can't complain about racism towards you and then be retweeting stuff like that. Shame on you, Dawn. At number 3, Just Stop Oil. I don't need to explain what's happening. You can hear what's happening, aren't you? They're spraying something. After preaching their virtues, it turns out that Just Stop Oil are just as bad as the rest of us, because they've actually been caught importing T-shirts made by low-paid workers in the Dominican Republic. The eco-activist group was branded a hypocrite for getting merchandise shipped from 4,000 miles away, rather than reducing its carbon footprint by having them made in the UK. I mean, the average textile worker in the Dominican Republic makes less than £40 a day, but Just Stop Oil is charging 20 quid a pop. At number 2, after explaining very clearly whilst in opposition the damage that a raise in national insurance would do, our Chancellor Rachel Reeves has gone and done it anyway.
Despite all of their election promises to cut national insurance contributions, they're actually raising them against the strong advice of business and trades unions. The Conservative government's actions will make each new recruit more expensive. Increase the rates of employers' national insurance by 1.2 percentage points to 15% from April 2025.
Utter hypocrite. But then, at number 1, son of a toolmaker, Sir Keir Starmer, who promised not to raise tax on working people.
The person I have in my mind, Nick, when I say working people is people who earn their living, rely on our services and don't really have the ability to write a cheque when they get into trouble. So the sort of people I'm meeting pretty well every day now.
He's so hard to touch. Nobody writes cheques anymore. Forget about the pensioners who worked all their lives. They don't actually qualify. But what about farmers, business owners and people who are going on their holidays? Don't they all work? Labour's latest tax grab will affect them all.
We have not announced today anything over and above what we've pre-announced. So none of the plans today in our manifesto for growth, for wealth creation, require us to raise other taxes.
For a man who claimed that he would clean up politics, he's definitely cleaning up. He's got a nerve. Remember the freebies? The waspy women, I could go on. There's so much that I had to leave out on this list. But it's all right, because he's the son of a toolmaker.
And this is something the media will know. I said it many times in the election campaign. My dad was a toolmaker.
But before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should civil servants be forced to work in the office? Thousands of them are at the Land Registry have voted to strike over new requirements, which means that they will have to work from the office 3 days a week. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should civil servants be forced to work in the office? And Britain's longest-serving postman, Robert Hudson, who's been delivering letters and parcels for 60 years, has finally called time on his career just yesterday. I'll be speaking to him in this hour. And in my second Great British Debate of the hour, I'm asking, does your council provide value for money after it was revealed that a quarter of council tax raised is spent on what is being described as unjustifiably generous staff pensions? All of that is on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So joining me now, Labour activist and writer Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, welcome. I struggle to find any others other than the Labour Party hypocrites because there's just been so many of them. I mean, what would your number one hypocrite? Who would they be?
Gosh, I'm looking back on 2024 with a sense of fondness. I'm not looking to find people to blame. Obviously, if we're going to go down that route, I would say that the Tory party, they're no longer in power. But the damage that they did over the 14 years that they were in power, and right up till the very end, the bitter end, they were still, carrying on with their very divisive policies. And I do feel that, obviously, we could talk about hypocrites. You've mentioned Keir Starmer, and I could mention a number of Tory party members as well, including Boris Johnson and Nadine Dorries and so on. But to be honest, let's look forward. Let's look at the next year. That's just literally around the corner, a few days left of 2024. Let's look at the positives and let's hope that there's more good news. Well, we could all do with good news, to be fair. The end of the war in Ukraine, the end of the war in Gaza. Yeah. There's lots of things to look forward to, and that's what I want to concentrate on.
Well, we could concentrate on that, but we're concentrating on this right now. What about Louise Haigh, then? I mean, she did say that people with criminal records or people shouldn't be, anywhere near politics, and yet she has one of her own, even though it's a spent one. There she was.
Well, look, I can't actually justify with what happened with her conviction, but I will say that those with spent convictions, it's as though those convictions didn't exist. So I think it's important. But from what I understand, Keir Starmer was fully aware. She made him aware before she was given any position, even when she was in the shadow cabinet as well. So I think this coming to light now, again, this is something that that was already stated. You have to declare it anyway, Nana. When you go through the sort of, when you get your position in any kind of position, in the House of Commons, you have to go through quite a long vetting process and everything. You literally have to declare everything. Everything comes out anyway. You can't hide anything.
Yeah, no, so we're not saying, well, maybe it was, but they were going on about how lawbreakers can't be lawmakers. So, you know what I mean? It smacks of hypocrisy. Let's move on to Just Stop Oil. Well, oh, no, let's do Diane. Let's do Dawn Butler. Dawn Butler.
Right. Okay. Well, Dawn is actually a very good friend of mine, and I have a lot of time and respect for her as well. And she was pointing out something that she feels strongly about. Racial gatekeepers, people of colour that basically prevent other people of colour from coming forward and from progressing and so on. And that's her personal belief, that she honestly believes that people in the Tory party, people of colour in the Tory party, have been responsible in preventing other people of colour from progressing.
Yes, because specific about Kemi Badenoch, wasn't she? So I'm wondering how Kemi has stopped anyone from progressing. If anything, she is a positive role model for other black women who might see her and think that actually this is achievable. So I'm just wondering how, and it was at that time, the leadership time, where she retweeted that tweet from Nels Abbey about how Kemi Badenoch is the face of white supremacy. Now that is a bit of an allegation, surely.
I mean, look, as soon as she realised that this isn't appropriate, she undid the tweet. So I do, look, I've been involved in politics for over 20 years. There is lots of adversarial kind of attitudes between party members, especially from opposition party members, Some people choose to do politics that way. I don't. That's their personal choice. It's not something that I would personally do myself. But I do think that, look, given everything that's happened, given the election, that was pretty vile election campaign, actually. A lot of people were affected, a lot of women were affected. There was a lot of misinformation out there, lots of personal attacks. And I'm not just talking about the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. I'm talking about all women in politics. And this is something that we have to address. And you've mentioned a role model for more people coming into politics. Yeah. And I think it's really important that we have positive role models, whether they're from the Conservative Party or the Labour Party or the Lib Dems or the Greens, any party that basically fields women candidates and gives positions of power, allows women to stand potentially positions of power, is a positive thing as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so and very quickly, because we've got to get through these. Just Stop Oil, hypocrites.
Oh, massively. I think the message that they first started with, I'm not going to lie, I thought, fantastic, here is a group of people, they understand, they're using sort of social media and other tactics, but I think it started going a little bit haywire when they started all these protests on the road, stopping people from getting to hospitals and, seeing their loved ones who subsequently passed away. And I think from that point onwards, they've started losing the public support. And I think that's the biggest thing in any campaign, is to have public support behind you. And if you're behaving in a way that is turning public opinion against you, then you need to rethink your strategies. And I've said this before as well. I've been on other sort of platforms and I've spoken about this, that protesting and sort of talking about things and organising demos, it's an amazing aspect of living in a democratic country like ourselves. But it can go too far. And causing criminal damage, absolutely no. Against artifacts,
it's not on, is it?
It doesn't make any sense.
It was a bit silly, wasn't it? Okay, and finally, we can...
On that point...
We find something to agree on, and it would be great to end on agreement, but we're not, because we're going to talk about Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. Let's bag them in together, because Rachel Reeves, obviously, she said she wasn't going to do national insurance hikes. She explained why she wasn't going to do it, how it was a bad thing, and then she did it anyway. And Keir Starmer, well, there's a list that's just as long as your arm.
But Nana, the way I looked at with Rachel, the information that they had access to before they won the election, and obviously afterwards, it's just, they had to act on the information that they were then told afterwards. And I do think that a lot of the tax hikes and a lot of the sort of the things that they've backtracked on it's out of necessity. All of these sort of policy changes are out of necessity. Some have been quite knee-jerk, in my opinion, the farmers in tax and so on. But others, I think that there have been, you know, it's kind of like where our hands are tied and we've got no choice. But give it time.
They've definitely got choices.
It's only been about 5 months in power. Give us time.
Give them time, and they might listen. Sometimes you give people time, and there's nothing left. Aisha Ali Khan, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. She's an activist and writer. Let's bring in my panel commentator, Lee Harris, the CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Lee Harris.
That last one made me laugh about not you know, out of necessity. They had to make these choices out of necessity. Yet, within a matter of minutes after taking office, I think they spent about 70 billion quid. It's an utter joke. They're spending 15 billion on foreign aid while we can't even keep our pensioners warm in the winter. I mean, it's absolutely insane. If I was in charge, Nana, I would be immediately scrapping net zero. We simply can't afford it at the moment. I'm not saying that we shouldn't get to net zero.
We can improve things.
We can absolutely, but technology will get us there. But to spend that much money after claiming there's a 22 billion black hole is absolute nonsense.
Well, I think he's been forced to change tack on that, especially with the solar panels.
Well, 9 billion
He was going to have solar farms, and then obviously there was that awful storm. In fact, he announced it after that awful storm that destroyed a load solar farm in Anglesey, which was utter madness. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. Putting solar panels on top of houses and getting developers to put them on top of houses when they're building them, I think, is a good idea. I see the problem with that. Alex Cairns, but...
He's inherited an economic disaster, as you both know, and actually foreign aid is very, very important for the country.
What, more important than our pensioners?
Look, the idea that millions of pensioners are going to freeze to death because they're not getting the winter fuel payment is just ridiculous.
Well,
and you both know that's ridiculous.
You said millions, it's not. It was about 4,000, and it was Labour's own research before they were elected that said that about 4,000 pensioners would die as a result of removing the winter fuel allowance. Just to clarify, not millions, thousands.
And I actually disagreed with that release that the Labour Party, that analysis they did, because there's no way conclusively to know that if you don't get winter fuel payment, that you're going to, you know, drop dead in your house. You know,
somehow they managed it, and that's what they said. So they're utter hypocrites, aren't they?
No, they're not utter hypocrites. Sorry, I think the person, the Labour Party member or staffer that did that piece of research, that's just not correct, I don't think.
You don't think it's correct? Well, I mean, it was their own research that they used against the Tory party, and now they're in power. Somehow, you're making excuses for it, right?
I'm not making excuses.
22 minutes. See, literally making excuses for them. Because there's no way out, is there? You've done research. There's no way out of that. 22 minutes after 4 o'clock, this is GBNews. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Next, though, it's time for our second Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, or even the first one, should civil servants be forced to work in the office?
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
But it turns out there's a growing number of grandparents who are now taking up the hobby.
And not all of them are male. 7 million gamers are aged over 50, 7 million of them. And we're going to introduce you to one this morning. Her name's Kath Bowie. She's 76 years of age, and Kath has become a worldwide star of the game Fortnite. Good to see you, Kath.
Hello, good morning to both of you.
Morning. And tell me this, Kath, is Bowie your real name?
Bowie. Yeah. Bowie. Yes, it is my real name, yes.
And you do it a Bowie and not a Bowie?
It's a Bowie, yes, definitely Bowie, yes.
Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie.
That's not what the Jim Bowie was called, or Jim Bowie was called in the Alamo. He was a Bowie.
No, but that's what I'm called, Kath Bowie.
Oh, right.
She's their own superstar.
You are your own superstar. You are indeed. Well, so we're led to believe, Kath, that there's nobody else like you, or very few people like you, but there is. There is lots of people your age, your stage, doing what you do.
Yes, there's not a lot that streams. OK, Fortnite, but there's definitely plenty that plays. Any game, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Fortnite. It can be any game.
So, Kath, how did you get started in all of this?
Oh yeah, well, it's 7 years ago actually. I walked into my teenage grandson's bedroom and just saw him playing what I now know, of course, and what I play is Fortnite. And that was the very first week that Epic had released it. And it was just really love at first sight.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
25 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is at GB News. I'm Nana Akua. If you just tuned in, where have you been? We're halfway through the show. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should civil servants be forced to work in the office, actually in the office? Thousands of them at the Land Registry have voted to strike over new requirements which mean that they have to work from the office 3 days a week. Now, this comes after data released by the ONS shows that daily average attendance in some civil service departments was as low as 5%, with attendance rates averaging less than 10% in other buildings. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should civil servants actually be forced to come into the office? Joining me now, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Alex.
They shouldn't be forced to come to the office.
No.
So for a long time, the pay of the civil service has been absolutely in the dumps, right? You know, we saw under the Conservative government for a long time there was silly, insulting 2.5% pay increases. Finally, Labour get in and actually take it seriously and give them what they're owed, 5, 6, some, you know, the Home Office, some of the civil servants there got 9%, actually taking it seriously, right? For a long, long time, they were told that they could work remote. You know, I know people that are civil servants have moved their families away from London, and now there's the civil service. I know it's not all of the departments, obviously Land Registry, a couple of others, are basically saying, right, from Monday you have to come in 3 days a week. You can't just say to your workforce, we're happy for you to work remote, and then suddenly just change the rule book.
Well, you can if initially if they were employed full time and in the office, then you gave them that concession, possibly because of COVID, and then suddenly their productivity falls. What if, and you pointed out the Home Office, who are very unproductive. What if their productivity is so bad, and also there's also secure information that may be unsafe if it's done from home on your computer, obviously because these are sensitive bits of information. To come into the office 3 days a week, what's wrong with that?
So
does the employer not have a chance?
So, interestingly, I agree with you if it's about the sensitivity piece, no one's going to dispute that. If there are documents and things of national security, absolutely, they've got to be there. But on the point of them not being productive, it's a process issue. You know, the Home Office, there's lots of red tape. You know, it's not people being lazy. It's just there's complicated systems there that are outdated.
Well, until they're productive and until they are in some sort of area where they are doing the job in the timely fashion, I think they should come to the office, Lee Harris.
Sack the lot of them. That's exactly what they should do. At the end of the day, it's not their right to decide what hours they should work. The productivity is down to each individual department. And as it happens, productivity is utterly appalling. Now, something needs to be done about that. You can't have members of staff dictating their own hours. Unless they are literally contracted to do that, fine. But even then, the bosses of each department can say, well, hold on a minute, you know, we're just not doing as much as we need to. You look at certain departments within government, honestly, the productivity is appalling. And for them to sort of say, I mean, they're only asking for a few days a week. These people would not last 5 minutes in the private sector.
It's 60% of the week, Lee. Like, it's not. They're not going from fully remote work to 1 day a week.
I mean, maybe
3
I'm
days
coming,
a week from
maybe
nothing
I'm
is
coming,
a big increase.
Maybe I'm coming about this the wrong way. I run my own business. I work 100 hours a week. I graft my backside off for every single penny I earn. I see this, where people are whinging about coming into the office about 3 days a week. I mean, I just laugh. It's an absolute joke that honestly...
What, you don't believe in remote work?
Of course I believe in remote work. I don't
What's
believe
the issue then? They should just let them continue to... And also, the UK's unproductive as a whole. It's not the civil service.
Because they're not being productive. If everything was running swimmingly and it was going fantastic, fine, keep them... But it's not. The other thing is, right, is the state is massive, right? They have a massive amount of...
pension, don't forget the pension.
And the honestly, you could slash half the people working in the civil service and the same amount of work. We need Elon Musk over here.
No, we do not need Elon Musk over here.
We need Doge.
No,
that's what we need.
No, I'll tell you what we need. I don't disagree that actually there's some departments that potentially they could look at some cuts, because I do think that potentially at some point, and probably the Conservative government's to blame for this, they're overhired. There's no doubt about that. But to say that they're all lazy, you should fire all of them, they're unproductively...
They're not all lazy.
Because you run your own business and now you think that they're all being lazy and it's this Gen Z, millennial, rubbish of everyone always saying that they can't work from home.
Just 90% of them.
No. See, this is the problem with it, right? This ridiculous idea that all of them can't work from home, because, look, there's no evidence to suggest that people are less productive at home.
Apart from the productivity.
The productivity is a UK-wide issue.
No, it's not.
It's not
a civil service issue.
It's not specific to the civil service, and you know that, Lee.
No, it is.
You can't tell people what they know. You don't know what they know. You only know what you know. He knows what he knows. You don't know what he knows, and you don't know what I know. All right? Just
That's
so
right.
you know this.
Just so you know. That's good.
Right, well, what do you think?
Like a rap.
GBNews.com/you're saying. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up in my second Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, does your council provide value for money? That is a big question. Let me know. GBNews.com/you're say. We'd like to hear your thoughts, your comments. I'll be reading those throughout the show. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you at 4:32 exactly. Well, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologised to Azerbaijan for a plane crash on Christmas Day that sadly killed 38 people. But he did stop short of admitting that Russia was to blame. The aircraft, reportedly hit by shrapnel from Russian air defence systems, crash-landed in Kazakhstan after being forced to divert from Chechnya. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of spreading disinformation, though, saying the damage did resemble a missile strike. US officials also say Russia is responsible, while Azerbaijan believes the crash was caused by external interference. Investigations are now underway with multiple teams examining the site. Here, flights disrupted by heavy fog are causing chaos at airports across the country. Dozens of flights at Heathrow and Gatwick have been cancelled or delayed, with air traffic restrictions in place because of poor visibility. The knock-on effects from Friday's delays mean planes and pilots are out of position, leaving some passengers stranded. Well, earlier, the travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, told us people need to check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick, to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
Calder there speaking to us earlier today. Well, boost growth or get out of the way. That is the message from Sir Keir Starmer to UK regulators. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and Business Secretary have asked watchdogs, including Ofgem and Ofwat, to propose pro-growth reforms by mid-January. It follows figures showing the UK economy flatlined between July and September. Labour says it's pulling every lever, though, to deliver the highest sustained economic growth in the G7, but the Conservatives blame the government's policies for stalling progress. And 1,300 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since just Christmas Day, as hundreds more crossed today. It comes as the Home Office confirmed 305 arrived yesterday in 5 small boats. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has blamed Sir Keir Starmer for scrapping Tory measures like the Rwanda plan, saying that Labour's approach is an insult to the British people. The Prime Minister, though, has promised to smash the gangs behind the crossings, but more than 22,000 people have now arrived since he took office, up 25% on last year. Those are the latest headlines for now. Nana will be back with you very shortly, which is a good thing too, because she's been busy laughing.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around, but already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here, but still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then we're seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places, and really it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing, but further south a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon we should see brighter skies developing, and with the increase in sunshine we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground, and that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, with potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, welcome on board. This is GB News. We're online, we're here on your digital radio and on TV. I'm Nana Akua. Now it's time for our second Great British Debate of this hour, and I'm asking, does your council provide value for money? Now, it was revealed that the average household is effectively paying more than £230 a year directly into council tax staff pensions. So that's nearly £1 in every £4 raised in council tax is actually now being spent on what is being described as unjustifiably generous staff pensions, with local authorities contributing nearly £7 billion to their employees' pension pots in the past year. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, does your council tax, in your view, provide you with value for money? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Alex Cairns, I was starting with you. Are you old enough to do that? 18? It's about 18, isn't it? You're not, are you?
Don't pay anything. No, I mean, I still live with my parents, and
I was close.
you know, Richmond upon Thames is where we live, and yeah, the council tax is very expensive there. I don't want to criticise the council too much because I know some of the political leaders there, and they do work hard. In fairness to them, I think it's difficult because look, the reality is in our borough, for example, you know, it's a very populated borough, right? So there are going to be some tough decisions. What I would like to say...
Get more money,
lots of council tax.
More money.
No, but in terms of the spending, you know, there's lots, you know, Richmond upon Thames, there's a lot of demanding people, a lot of Waitrose shoppers, avocado eaters, a lot of people that complain about potholes.
At least you're being honest.
No, it's just true, you know. So I actually think that, you know, I wouldn't want to be in their position because it's a tough crowd to please, to be honest.
Well, so you think that, how about they do something, change the pension structure, because these pensions are extremely generous. That's the problem here, that £1 in every 4 that you're spending is going towards a staff pension.
Yeah, we need to slash the size of the state, full stop. I mean, it's not actually dissimilar to the conversation we were just having about the civil service. You know, we just need to reduce the size of the state. It's just too much money. And the more responsibility, I think... Angela Rayner's talking about making mega councils. You know, this is the same party that is running Birmingham City Council, which is the biggest council in Europe, as I understand it, and they've gone bankrupt. I mean, these guys couldn't run a bath. I just think that it's too big, it's too bloated, it's too much of a cushy number. I do appreciate what you're saying. There are a lot of people that will work hard in the public sector, and I'm not trying to take that away from them, but we have to have a conversation about reducing the amount of wastage. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if half these people are going on blooming DEI courses, and we're spending millions and millions of pounds on utter nonsense. They've got too many people there. There's too much wastage. Honestly, the thought of Labour making mega councils as well, I mean, honestly, it just terrifies me.
Well, a lot of them have gone bankrupt, haven't they? We had Nottingham City Council in November.
Liverpool, didn't we?
Birmingham in September 2023, Woking Borough Council, Thurrock, Croydon, you know, and Croydon has actually declared bankruptcy twice in 2021 and 2022.
Oh, Liverpool was the
in fact, corruption. 3 times in 2020 as well. So there's quite a few of these. What I'm concerned about is even when these councils get more money, they spend the money badly.
Yeah.
And that's my worry. Even if you're to pay even more into these things, they end up spending it on nonsense. It's a bit like the government spending money on foreign farmers whilst taking money from inheritance tax.
Under a policy that will cost us £1 billion.
Yeah, so you're actually losing money.
It's just...
It doesn't make any sense, so I'm concerned that...
It's ideological.
Because, you know, if I talk about my council, there's a subscription now for the green bin. So I'm like, well, what am I paying for then? I thought...
Yeah.
You know, why do I have to pay something separate now for the green bin that kicks in April? Why?
But I don't think we should jump to the conclusion that all councils are poorly run. You know, in fairness, there are some councils, it's all going to be about individual decisions. But what I would say, it's very, very difficult. We've got to be sympathetic. Councils, you know, I've been to some council meetings, they're awful things. You know, people turn up and talk about ridiculous situations where they're not happy about the double yellow line, where it stops, or a drop curb. I mean, it's very difficult. So naturally, you know, we want to be in their shoes. You know, having to spend money on a whole range of things.
But why should they get such a generous pension?
Because it's a hard job, you know. And by the way, they don't get big salaries. We've got to give them a good pension.
Some of them do get big salaries.
OK, some of the top managers.
Some of them get paid more than the Prime Minister.
That's like any job, then. Some people get paid more than others. Let's
but they don't get any bonuses, then. They should get good pensions.
But the thing is, they get incredible pensions. So it's just like they're saying, oh, you're not paying these people a lot of money. But most people don't have an incredible pension, apart from if you're working in one of these kind of civil service or council type roles. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration. I would rather they got less of a pension, there were fewer of them there, and they could get a slightly higher wage. That's what I would think. But I would strip it. I would make it so they're literally strip it in half, because they're all...
We're all paying more, Nana, and we're getting less. I mean, I checked with a grown-up before I came out. 238 quid a month I'm paying. It's going up in April, and they've just gone from a 2-week black bin connection to a 3-week black bin. I'm literally paying more and getting less. It's a joke.
Well, you don't know because your parents do it. You take the bins out.
I do take the bins out, actually. I'm good like that. I go shopping, I do all sorts of things. But no, look, seriously, the perk here is the pension, right? And everyone knows that. A lot of people go into the civil service or go into their local council because they want to get a good pension and they enjoy giving back to the society. They enjoy working in the local council. But Well, it's a very complicated. And actually, the Conservative government under a long time have looked at devolution. You know, we've got these metro mayors now. I think there's going to be 2 more, right, in the next few years.
I'm not a big fan.
So it's not just Labour. The Conservatives have done it for a long time.
Well, you know, look, I'm sure that they're all guilty. Councils are, you know, irrespective of party. I'm talking about councils in general. But Claire has sent a message in. It's one for you. She said, let's hope Alex wakes up and sees the error of his ways when he's no longer kept by mummy and daddy in leafy middle-class Richmond and has to fend for himself out in the big bad world.
I'm regretting saying where I live now. They're going to come to me. I'll have to move after this.
Martin says, I can't wait for this Alex guy to get old and a pensioner. I'm sure he will want to stay warm. Yes, that's what he's saying to you. Catherine says councils need radical reform to learn how not to waste taxpayers' money.
Correct.
I'm with you 100% on that. And finally, how could council tax give the value for money when 25% of that is given to pensions? Agreed. What do you think? They keep them coming. But now, if you are in search of some winter sun, then here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's a lot of fine weather to come across many of the usual holiday hotspots in southern Europe through the next few days. A different story across the southeast of Europe, though. Here's Storm Elena bringing some heavy rain, strong winds across parts of Greece into Cyprus and into Turkey as well. Elsewhere, though, like I said, lots of dry weather on offer, and with that, lots of sunshine too. So not looking too bad at all if you're heading across many parts of southern Europe through the next couple of days. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Yeah, well, just want another message here, though, because it's quite interesting. A lot of you have been getting in touch at gbnews.com/you'll say. This one I thought was quite entertaining. Alistair says, looking at all that fog at airports, I almost thought I was looking into Starmer's head. I thought that was funny. OK, sorry about that, Kia. I'm only joking. It's a joke. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. Coming up in the next hour for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we send more prisoners to open prisons?
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
This is a topic very close to my heart. I have become fully convinced that social media, smartphones are one of the primary causes of mental health problems in children and many other serious problems beside. Lots of governments are starting to talk about this, but the Australians are well ahead in their use of legislation. What do you think about this issue?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I've got 3 young children and I'm really concerned about... I mean, they're too young to be on social media, but I'm really concerned about what lies ahead for them. I'm not sure I support what Australia's doing, not because I don't think it's a good idea to ensure that age verification is right. I'm just not sure that the age 16 is appropriate. But that's progress. If we effectively, as I do, accept the point that we need some sort of control, then we can move to a proper debate about whether that's 16, 14, 13, whatever it may be. And, of course, there are age restrictions on things like Facebook. I think, from memory, it is 13.
Yes, but it's a tick box.
But it's a tick box, so all you can do is you can just knock. If you're 11 years old, you can just predate your date of birth by 2 years, and you can get on. I think what Australia is proposing is interesting because it will stop young people, maybe without their parents' knowledge, short-circuiting the system because they're going to be asking for proper age verification and ID. That's definitely something we should do in the UK because it's enforced in the existing law. Query, is 16 the right age, Miriam?
I completely agree with it. It's something I've actually said should have been done before. And I think what is good about it is that for a long time, a lot of governments have been saying that the actual social media companies should take more responsibility, but they're not going to because it hurts their bottom line. The most voracious users are younger users. So they will pledge that, oh, I'll put the tick box in, but the kid is the one who's going to actually tick the box. So doing something like this is saying that, OK, we will put in legislation that damages your bottom line, and I think it will force the hand because they've said it's only 12 months and they will reevaluate it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News. I hope you had a lovely Christmas. I'm Nana Akua. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, in March, the Princess of Wales announced that she was diagnosed with cancer. And in an update in September, she revealed that she had completed a course of preventative chemotherapy treatment. Our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, takes a look back at the last year.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London. And at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
The Princess of Wales was subjected to months of intense global scrutiny sparked by social media speculation. Following major abdominal surgery, the Princess withdrew from public life to focus on her recovery. Prince William also stood back, balancing time between limited engagements and looking after his family. Soon after, hashtags like "Where is Kate" started to trend, and unfounded conspiracy theories took hold. The BBC reported a Russian disinformation group was partly to blame for the viral sensation, but social media algorithms and influencers based mainly in the United States jumped on the trend. Kensington Palace insisted the princess was recovering and expected to return to public duties after Easter. But on Mothering Sunday, the situation took a dramatic turn. What started off as an innocent photograph of Her Royal Highness and her children ended in frenzy. Royal fans online started to notice alterations in the image, and a number of news agencies eventually issued kill notices, asking news organisations to remove the photo from their systems due to inconsistencies. The following day, the princess tweeted, "Like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing. I wanted to express my apologies for any confusion the family photograph we shared yesterday caused." In March, the princess bravely told the nation she was undergoing preventative chemotherapy, timed deliberately to coincide with her children's holidays so they could be protected in the privacy of their Norfolk home.
It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who've taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful.
The princess once again removed herself from public life. This time, she was given the space and privacy to recover. The public rejoiced when Catherine chose to attend Trooping the Colour in June and got a standing ovation at Wimbledon. As summer drew to a close, the princess gave an update on her condition.
I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The cancer journey is complex, scary and unpredictable for everyone, especially those closest to you.
Throughout the autumn, the princess undertook a couple more public engagements. Next year, royal sources hint the princess may carry out more duties, including international travel. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Yeah, it's been a very challenging year for the royal family as well. If you've just joined me, welcome on board. I'm here with my panel, political commentator Lee Harris, also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. I want to ask your thoughts on the fact that Donald Trump met with Prince William, which was a nice thing, and now he's coming for another state visit. So there are apparently two booked in, which is unprecedented.
Yeah, I think that's the least the Labour Party could do after slagging them off for I mean, they've got to roll the red carpet out after the things that they've said. This is going back to what we were saying about Labour not actually being prepared to be a government. They are still in opposition in their minds. I don't think they thought any of this through. when they were having a pop at Trump. So, yes, they should roll the red carpet out.
Alex, you've got about 20 seconds.
Of course, we're going to talk about the name calling. Look, the seriousness of this is he's going to be the president. It's very important that we actually have a good relationship with our special partner. You know, I'm happy that he's coming over. You know, he needs to change his rhetoric on a few of the topics, but he's good, you know.
All right, well, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Was it royally screwed up by some members of a certain party by insulting the president-elect? What do you think? You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Coming up in the next hour, my difficult conversations. I'll be speaking with former prisoner-turned-entrepreneur Stephen Gillen about whether more prisons should be sent to open prisons. But first, let's get some weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around. But already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here. But still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then we're seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places. And really, it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing. But further south, a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon, we should see brighter skies developing. And with the increase in sunshine, we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland, we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground. And that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, with potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever. An incredible £50,000. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight? I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us a vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me this hour, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Coming up, I was asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch after the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, accused Reform UK of faking its membership numbers? I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Please cast that vote. Then, coming up in Difficult Conversations, I'll be speaking with former prisoner turned entrepreneur and author Stephen Gillen about his thoughts on whether we should send more prisoners to open prisons in a bid to reduce reoffending. And Labour's plan for free weight loss jabs on the NHS is facing a fierce backlash, according to a new poll. We're discussing whether the taxpayer really should be paying for it. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. It's just after 5 o'clock. Well, the top story tonight. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologised to Azerbaijan for a plane crash on Christmas Day that sadly killed 38 people. But he stopped short of admitting Russia was to blame. The aircraft, reportedly hit by shrapnel from a Russian air defence system, crash-landed in Kazakhstan after being forced to divert from Chechnya. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Moscow of spreading disinformation, saying the damage did resemble a missile strike. US officials also say Russia is responsible, while Azerbaijan believes the crash was caused by external interference. Investigations are now underway, with various teams examining the site. Nigel Farage says that Elon Musk is an absolute hero to young voters and claims he'll help Reform UK to win them over. In an interview with The Telegraph, the Reform UK leader hinted that Mr Musk could make a reasonable-sized donation, insisting it would be legal and above board. Well, it comes as Farage has demanded an apology from Kemi Badenoch after she accused Reform UK of faking their membership's numbers. The Tory leader says that Reform's online tally overtaking registered Tory members, she says, smells of fakery. Farage, though, has denied those claims and calls them baseless. Flights disrupted by heavy fog are causing chaos across the UK at airports. Dozens of flights at Heathrow and Gatwick have been cancelled or delayed, with air traffic restrictions in place because of poor visibility. And the knock-on effects from Friday's delays also mean planes and pilots are out of position, leaving some passengers stranded. Well, earlier, the independent travel correspondent Simon Calder told us that people need to check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick, to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
Good luck indeed. Well, boost growth or get out of the way. That is the message from Sir Keir Starmer to UK regulators. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and Business Secretary have all asked watchdogs, including Ofgem and Ofwat, to propose pro-growth reforms by mid-January. It follows figures showing the UK economy flatlined between July and September. Labour, though, says it is pulling every lever to deliver the highest sustained economic growth in the G7. The Conservatives blame the government's policies for stalling progress. GB News has confirmed today that 1,300 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since just Christmas Day. Hundreds more also crossing today. It comes as the Home Office confirmed 305 arrived yesterday in 5 different small boats. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has blamed Sir Keir Starmer for scrapping Conservative measures like the Rwanda plan, saying that the approach of the Labour government is an insult to the British people. The Prime Minister, though, has promised to smash the gangs behind the crossings. But more than 22,000 people have now arrived since he took office. That's up 25% on last year. US President-elect Donald Trump has made a last-minute plea to get the Supreme Court to delay an upcoming nationwide ban on TikTok while he works on a political resolution. Congress had passed a law earlier this year banning the popular video-sharing app as of January the 19th if it's not sold by its Chinese parent company. US officials and lawmakers have accused ByteDance, that Chinese company, of being linked to the Chinese government, which the firm denies. And Easter eggs are already hitting supermarket shelves, would you believe, before New Year's Eve. Spotted in stores like Tesco's, Morrison's and Sainsbury's, customers have taken to social media to share their surprise, with one user joking Jesus hasn't even been born yet. While some shoppers called it superficial and consumerist, others say it's forward-thinking from big brands preparing early for Easter, coming up on the 20th of April. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, welcome. It's just coming up to 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, Labour's plan for free weight loss jabs on the NHS is facing fierce backlash. That's according to a new poll. We'll be discussing whether the taxpayer really should be paying for this. And in difficult conversations, a former prisoner turned entrepreneur and also Stephen Gillen will be here to talk about his thoughts on whether we should send more prisoners to open prisons in a bid to reduce reoffending. Then in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we send more prisoners to open prisons? Send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So what are your thoughts on this? 1 in 5 people in Britain would use a weight loss drug if it was free on the NHS. And that is according to a new poll. 1 in 7 have either taken an injection themselves or know someone who has. Now, the prospect of fat jabs on the NHS would come at the expense of the taxpayer. So why should we foot the bill? Joining me now, pharmacist and solicitor Thorin Govind. Thorin, welcome. Happy Christmas. Nice to see you. Talk to me about...
Lovely to see you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've just opened up gone to the supermarket this morning. The Easter eggs are already, out. So by 2050, the NHS is forecast to be spending $9.7 billion on obesity-related illness, which really, evidences where we are right now. And just over 25% of adults in England are obese. Nana, so it is a concern that we are at this stage where we are having,
but listen,
taxpayer funding them.
Yeah, but Thorin, it's their own fault. in most cases, people who are overweight because they've chucked too much food in their gob. Now, listen, I have sympathy for people who have eating disorders and can't stop eating, but at the end of the day, I would rather my money in terms of NHS goes to things like cancer and stuff like that, where, you know, suddenly you're a victim of these things and you have to... I'd rather it went for even dementia, if they could start thinking of how they could fund that rather than me having to sell my house or someone having to use that, than people who can't stop eating. So I'm now paying for that. Surely they can pay for that themselves. They paid for the food.
I think we also need to factor in, though, what education are we giving to people about how they look after themselves? And malnutrition, we might not think that's an issue in this day and age, but people are not eating the right things. And how are we educating them on that? You know, there's cheap food, which is high in fat, is actually cheaper. So people are having to have that because that's what they can afford. So I think it's quite simplistic, Nana, to just be like, this is what people are putting in their bodies.
No, it is simplistic and it is quite straightforward, because when they take the fat jab, they suddenly lose weight. So it's clear that the reason they're fat is because they've eaten too much. You know what I mean? So it suppresses their appetite. This is wonderful. But I actually think that people should pay for it. I'm glad that it's there. I worked very hard. I trained very hard. But I don't see why my money should be paying towards people who can't control their intake of food.
Well, Nana, we've talked about me and you doing some Zumba in the new year, so that has to happen. But what I would say is, you know, I think people, it's not just about these weight loss jabs. No. That's what people don't realise. They're not a quick fix. And when you finish taking them, you still have to have all those habits in place that you've started whilst taking them, so that you continue to see the benefits. But, you know, in terms of how the UK is moving, healthcare is more private. People are flocking towards private healthcare because they cannot get what they need on the NHS. That is the truth of the matter. And what the NHS was set up to fund, you know, what it was like when it was first set up, that is not the conditions that it is running in now. We all do need to take some personal responsibility.
Exactly.
That is true.
Well, Thorin, exactly. So these people, and like 1 in 7, or lots of people taking these fat jabs, have given up whatever it is to take these fat jabs. In fact, the money that they're not spending on food, they can use to fund the jab themselves, because that's what I see. I see, look, you spend a fortune on food, that's why you're overweight, and that's in most cases. We know this. So the money that they're saving, they should use to fund the jab, to pay for the jab themselves. I don't think the NHS should provide it unless in really serious cases where they could start providing it, where someone couldn't work or can't move because they're that big.
Well, we also need to consider 1 in 8 children who are aged 2 to 10 years old in England are obese. How are we actually educating young people in this country? And I'll add to that, we know that people are going to A&E, you know, when they've fingernails come off, you know, artificial fingernails come off. So we need to make sure that people are accessing the health NHS where it's most appropriate. And that, for me, is the big educational point here.
Yeah, but the fat jab is the topic of conversation here. So do you think that we should be paying, as a society, for people to take this jab, in particular where they've just eaten too much? Surely they can fund their own thing from the money they're saving from the food that they won't be eating when they're taking this jab?
I think people who can afford to fund this privately and are in a position to do so should be able to. I also think that the NHS principles of supporting people, regardless of you know, where they come from in society, is also important. But we have to realise that the NHS resources are not, you know, not finite, and we all have to make sure that we're doing everything we can so that we don't need the NHS. So we're only needing it in an emergency. That is the sad fact of the matter.
Yes, and the fat jab is not really an emergency. I mean, I hear you saying that obesity costs the NHS a lot of money and all this, but obesity costs the people who are eating all that food a lot of money as well. And in my view, they could actually save money by not eating so much, by investing in the fat jab and investing in their own future. Thorin Govin, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. She's a pharmacist and a solicitor. Well, joining me now, my panel, political commentator Lee Harris, also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Alex Cairns, I'll start with you on this one. The fat jab, do you think we should be paying for that on the NHS?
I think we should, because the NHS is free of the point of use. Everyone that has any sort of medical condition should be able to go into a hospital and actually get some treatment. You know, people are... I agree with you to some extent. Some people definitely have got eating disorders or don't know how to cook good food. There's too many fast foods and yeah, there are some things that potentially they should have done to change that. But the reality is gyms are expensive, to eat healthily is expensive, and there's no short-term solution, and it's costing us about £90 billion.
There is, isn't there? The solution is eat less. And if you can take a jab that allows you to eat less, then instead of spending all that money on the food, you could spend it on the jab. Am I being unfairly?
You're absolutely not. Exercise isn't expensive. You don't need a gym to go and work out at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's helpful, but you can go and you can go for a run. You don't need to pay a gym membership for that. I don't think the NHS should be covering this. I think maybe there should be a sort of halfway house. Maybe there could be an introductory sort of where you kind of bring people in to start it and then they can continue it themselves. I think they do something similar, like with... Because I was just checking to make sure I got my facts right, but when I wanted to quit smoking years ago, I don't think the NHS would have paid for my patches. I had to get them from a pharmacy, I had to pay for them myself. I don't know whether that's the same for people on free prescriptions or not.
But isn't it the money that you're saving from the food that you'd be eating that you could invest in your own health? I mean, I'm sick of this thing where you expect somebody else to pick up the tab for your own bad behaviour or bad habits. I get it that some people may have a medical condition, and this is very, very few people. Very tiny, because the fat jab proves that these people are overweight because they eat too much, because it stops you from eating.
Yeah, for me, I think in society we lack a lot of personal responsibility. And I think people need to just, we need to educate people on to be able to keep them... I mean, I can't talk. I put on a bit of weight myself over Christmas.
Well, you're not exactly fat, though, are you?
No, but
I didn't see that.
The belly is... I tuck it in now if I breathe in. But no, I think we just lack a lot of personal responsibility, and I'm fed up of the state picking up the tab for people who, like you say, in a lot of cases, are just eating too much, like I have over Christmas.
If you wanted to get the fat jab, you'd have to pay for it yourself.
Absolutely.
Would you object to it?
Absolutely.
I think people should just pay for that themselves. Because it's a finite resource, we can't pay for everything. So there'll have to be some things that will have to go by the wayside. And if it ends up being you having to contribute for your own future in terms of your health, if you're eating too much, I don't see why that should be a problem.
But I don't want a situation where the society gets to a point it's them and us. We're going to treat cancer patients, but anyone that's obese, potentially is in a critical condition, we're going to leave them alone, And it's not just food, it's drinking. That we've got a drinking problem in this country. No one wants to talk about that. On the right, everyone talks about protect our pubs,
No, I want to talk about it. Don't tell me what I want to talk about. I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, you might be, but actually a lot of people on the right actually don't want to...
Do you want to talk about it, Lee?
Well, yeah.
Oh, what? So you'd be happy to have a drinking ban potentially? We're going to talk about obesity.
You said you want to talk about it. Now you've changed it.
No, talk about it.
No, but what I'm saying is a lot of people, whether it's Farage or lots of people in Reform, lots of people in the Tories, they're always talking about landlords and the drinking kind of sector in this country. Protect our pubs. And actually, lots of people are in pubs drinking to the point that they become obese. It's not just food.
Well, again, nobody's forcing them to drink it. They're drinking it themselves. So I would be an advocate of saying that if you end up in the NHS or at A&E because you've drank, you then pay for that, because you've literally self-inflicted, you've wasted everyone's time, and that is self-inflicted. I think that you should pay for... there should be some responsibility on you. You can't just get blind drunk, end up having to have your stomach pumped and all this thing, and then expect the NHS to constantly pay for it, especially if you're on a night out. You pay for the ambulance that comes to get you. You pay for certain things. There should be certain things where we just say, no, that's not going to come out of NHS funding. I think that's fine.
I also think it's wrong to compare cancer treatment to a fat jab. It's completely different. I expect to get cancer treatment on the NHS. I wouldn't expect for someone to pay for me to have a jab to help me lose weight. It just doesn't compute.
I'd expect if I go into any hospital, I'd be treated regardless of what the condition is. We don't want to get to a point where you're saying if they're obese, no, you pay for it. If it's something else, it's free.
But
it's meant to be free to the point of use.
Obesity is seen as a condition, but it's one that is literally of your own making. So for me, this is one where you are eating too much, and if you ate less or did some exercise as well, you could lose weight. So if you want to do that, then you pay for a jab. If you don't want to do it by the conventional means, which are eating less, which is normal, and just doing more exercise, because I know the hormones can have a role to play in that, and sleeping well, there are a few other factors. If you don't want to do it the normal way that most people do, and you want to take a shortcut, which is through these drugs, then you should pay for it. It's not like there's no other way of doing it.
We need more hospitals that the Tories promised us. We've got nurses leaving the profession because, we've got Brexit that has pushed people out of the country. The idea that NHS can't afford to actually help people is a nonsense, by the way.
It can't afford to help...
People are living longer.
It can't afford to help people who've been spending time helping themselves.
It's not that simple, Nana. No, but it isn't. It's complicated.
It is that simple. It is that simple. Most people are overweight because they eat too much.
They can't afford to eat healthily.
Ozempic, they can't
That's
afford.
nonsense
If you
too.
eat
No,
less,
it's not.
if you ate less, it would cost you more. Ozempic proves that most people are overweight because they eat too much. Because when they take it, it suppresses their appetite and they lose weight.
It's very expensive to eat healthily.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
And a lot of people have proven that. It's very expensive to eat healthily.
Who's proven it?
To have a balance.
Who's proven it?
I'm not going to give you specific examples.
You said a lot of people.
Yeah, but I think there was a Sunday Times report about this. Saying that the average 5-a-day diet costs something like £30 a day, right? If you can go to McDonald's for £6 and feed yourself.
Okay, but I can show you that the meal that I could cook would be cheaper, and I'll be making it from scratch, than a burger at McDonald's. And I can tell you now, you get more mileage out of the food that I get in this one hit than you would with a burger from a fast food restaurant.
All right.
And I think we all know.
We'll do it. Let's do it.
It's just laziness.
It's just laziness, isn't it? If you eat too much, yes, take the weight loss drug if you must, but pay for it yourself. That's my view. But what's yours? gbnews.com/your say. But next, it's time for Difficult Conversations. Former prisoner turned entrepreneur Stephen Gillen will be here to give us his thoughts on calls to send more prisoners to open prisons to help reduce reoffending.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Robert Walton has been jet-setting in recent weeks in Singapore for the YYY Awards and then back to London to host the inaugural Restaurant Association Awards.
Yep, and after many years in the industry, Robert also knows a thing or two about how to create the perfect Christmas. And it's all in the preparation. So we're going to be asking him about that as well. I'm delighted to say that the godfather of hospitality, Robert Walton, MBE, joins us now on the sofa.
Morning, Robert.
Robert,
Good
so
morning.
good to see you. And what a busy few weeks you have had. Yeah. Should we start with the YYY Awards? Because I think it's just wonderful who you celebrated at those awards.
So, the YYY, Young Chef, Young Waiter, Young Mixologist. And it's a competition that's created around the world. So people from all around the world can apply. So this year we had 9 countries, from India to the Caribbean, from the USA to Scotland and England. And so we had 27 young professionals. The average age was about 24.
Wow.
All coming to Singapore. So we flew everyone to Singapore. We create what I call the Olympic Village. We create a little village for them, and it's in a very cool spot with great bars. And then we have the competition. And this year, I can now announce, I was here just a few weeks ago before we had the competition, that the USA won, which was absolutely incredible. Thailand was second. And gorgeous Wales was third.
Yes. Well done, Wales.
Well done, Wales.
We now expect to have a good meal. There's no reason why you shouldn't have good food. The key now is the service, because there's no reason why you don't have good service. And good service is not that difficult. Smile to start with. It really isn't that difficult. It's called hospitable. We call the industry, or the sector we look after is the hospitality industry, which is all about being hospitable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's fast approaching 23 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's now time for this week's Difficult Conversations, which this week is with Stephen Gillen. Now, Stephen is in his early 20s, received a 17-year sentence as a Category A prisoner serving 12 of those in prison, and then was labelled one of the UK's most dangerous prisoners. Having hit rock bottom and after losing everything, Stephen worked hard to understand and manage his behavioural problems. Now, he has very much now turned his life around and is the author of 2 books, with his life mission being to continue improving, supporting and elevating the hundreds and millions and billions of people worldwide who need second chances and opportunities, just as he did. And I'm pleased to say that Stephen joins me now. Stephen, welcome.
Hi, Nana, how you doing? That was a lovely introduction, may I say thank you.
That's all right. I didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it. Right. So let's start with you. So how long did you serve in prison? Was it
11 years and 9 months?
Okay.
Sadly, unfortunately.
Almost 12.
Yeah.
And you were in prison for
armed robbery. Yeah. I had a tough upbringing. I was positioned for it in many ways. No excuses. I paid my debt, but yeah, it was a progression towards that life of crime.
So what was it like serving? Being in prison and everything. Was it quite hard? Was it quite a tough time? Or because a lot of people think that prisons are quite gentle spaces in a way, where you have Wi-Fi and everything else.
No, it's a desperate place. Let me just say, the public needs to be safe. There needs to be a deterrent. People need to, pay for actions and stuff like that. And but when you go to prison, you're being punished straight away. You're already lost your liberty and everything else. It's a desperate place. The high security prisons I was in was quite a tough place to be. A little bit more different from the general population.
So what do you think about David Gork? Because he told the BBC that actually people should potentially, instead of having people in prison for ages, as would normally be, they should be moved to Category D prisons. Now, these are the ones where they're open prisons. A lot of them don't even have any real security to stop people from going out. Some of them are tagged and so on and so forth. Do you think that is the right way, given your experience?
There's a few moving parts to this, Nana. I agree with the direction 100%. Look, to rehabilitate people, just like I said, when they go to prison, they're already being punished, as they should do if they've been found guilty by the court. But what comes after that? So it's about creating less victims, creating a bridge to normal living where we get the best of it. Society can get the best of it then. A lot of people in prison, they are redeemable. I'm not talking about sex offenders or really, really bad crimes. Some people should be in prison. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about generally the percentage are redeemable, and with a really intensive roadmap and help, this can only better society.
So when you came out of prison, was there any sort of roadmap or sort of a lowering, because you were in Category A, right? So was there a sort of coming down the ladder to a sort of more open prison before you were released?
Absolutely not. I come the long way around, and I really, I was released to Category A, which is quite rare, and I travelled the penal system in this country from the bottom to the top, so I really know its failings, and I know where the intervention should be, and no, I certainly wasn't, and that was extremely tough, and this is where many people are falling through the cracks.
Do you think that the answer is to have, this open prison idea where people maybe come from the Category A and then they come down the categories and eventually get released into society, having had some sort of, a kind of a hybrid of being in prison and not being in prison, which is what a Category D is?
Absolutely. It's the right way forward. Gorky has said, obviously. The government's mismanagement of this important pivotal issue has been quite rubbish so far. A lot of governments have found it hard, to get around this. But I think this is definitely a step in the right direction to prepare people. It needs to be intensive. It needs to be bespoke. And, of course, there is a roadmap to that where people can be vetted. But this is only going to create less victims and add to society so people are not going around, Nana, on this, which costs so much money to the taxpayer as well. There needs to be a solution. So what comes after? This is what we're not seeing.
Do you think we need more prisons?
I think we need less prisons. If we have to build more prisons, it shows the foundational processes we have against this to rehabilitate prisoners, like they do in other countries to great success. are not sufficient. So that needs to be looked at. And there are, you know, in my experience, quite draconian mindsets still, you know, within the English system.
Like
could be more progressive. Well, it's all about containment. It's all about punishment. You know, that's
What's wrong with that?
You know, but
if someone's done something bad, they should be contained and punished.
Absolutely, I agreed with you. You know, and there needs to be a deterrent. But you know, there's a bigger picture of view here. So you know, if we just take that line, then it's detrimental in the long run because people are not being treated in the way.
What about the death penalty? Like for serious, you know, like serious, where you know they've done it, because everyone goes, oh, what if they didn't? I mean, that would get rid of quite not in a horrible way, not in a callous way, but well, obviously it's not fun killing someone if they've committed a crime and it's part of a state-funded way of executing people. But what if, you know, because many offenders who are going to be in there all their lives, we're going to pay a fortune for them. Not that, I mean, I think the majority of people in this country would probably agree with it. Whether we'd be able to ever do anything like that would be another thing. But what's your view? If you thought there was a death penalty, would that have put you off?
My feeling is there are certainly some horrendous crimes at a level where that would be appropriate. Certainly.
Yeah, really?
I think so, but I'm mindful to really jump into, you know, that should be, you know, a policy for everyone, or that's the really best workable solution, to be honest, Nana.
Yeah.
That's my
I mean, well, I think, yeah, at some point they may reintroduce or reconsider it.
And
but
there
I
are
don't
different
think...
ways, and you know, I think life is sacred anyway. You know.
But would that have deterred you? Because yours is armed robbery. You could have killed someone. You didn't. But if you had, if you'd known in the back of your mind that was a prospect, would you have done what you did?
I think a lot of people would, because they can't foresee what's going to come next. And that's one of the Achilles' heels in that, you know. But it's certainly a very, very strong deterrent, isn't it?
I think it is.
You know, I mean, we look to the US or you know, even China, you know, brutally so, who really believe in this. This is a process that works for them.
Well, obviously you've come through the system. You're an entrepreneur now. You've written 2 books. What's next for you? What are you up to next?
Well, you know, I've been privileged enough just to develop as a human being, which is what I'm saying. You know, many of us, we are redeemable, Nana, you know, with the right help, you know, and all that stuff, intervention and support. I had that. I continue to have that. I've gone on to you know, to give to society, to do some good stuff. I've got a documentary being filmed in my on my life story in the book, Extraordinary: The Search for a Life Worth Living.
You've got a documentary coming out. When's that coming out? And where will we...
It's already started to be filmed, to be honest with you, but the main body of work is going to be done in January, and it's for one of the majors. I can't really go too much into.
Oh, we'll have to get you on.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble, right? You know, but it's, you know, it's a great privilege, and it's all going to be in there. It's a full length, 90-minute, 30 minutes of that are going to be dramatised. There's some really good names, actors in there. The whole bit. It's a very gritty piece, telling the truth, the real truth. No way glamorising any part of that life, because it's not glamorous.
It's not glamorous at all, is it? But you've been doing TED Talks and all this sort of thing. So you got out and you managed to get your life back together, and you know, it's a good thing. I'm
living proof. I mean, I went on. I just finished a series with Sky with Ross Kemp. You know, I'm filming another one now. Sean Bean. Can't say too much about that either. I'll get into trouble. But, you know, things are possible if you just be honest, you work, you get the right people around you, you know, and you get that support and a roadmap to help you along. Yeah. I'm sure we all know this now.
Yeah, and Category D prisons, you'd say, was a good idea.
It's a stepping stone, because, you know, there's no beginning, middle, ending here that makes any sense, and there's no solution. So this is why we get so much more problems in society that can certainly be averted, and that, to me, has to be a good thing.
All right, Stephen Gillen, really good to talk to you. Your book is Extraordinary. That is out now anyway, so he's a former prisoner and an entrepreneur and author. Right, 32 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? You've almost missed all of the show. It's fine, because the Saturday 5 are up after me. But I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should we send more prisoners to open prisons? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Lee Harris and Alex Kearns. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good evening from the newsroom. The top story tonight. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has apologised to Azerbaijan for a Christmas Day plane crash that killed 38 people, but stopped short of admitting that Russia was to blame. The aircraft, reportedly hit by shrapnel from Russian air defence systems, crash-landed in Kazakhstan after being forced to divert from Chechnya. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Moscow of spreading disinformation, saying the damage did resemble a missile strike. US officials also say Russia is responsible, while Azerbaijan believes the crash was caused by external interference. Investigations are now underway, with multiple teams examining the crash site. Flights disrupted by heavy fog have been causing chaos at UK airports today. Dozens of flights at Heathrow and Gatwick were cancelled or delayed, with air traffic restrictions in place because of poor visibility. And the knock-on effects from Friday's delays meant that planes and pilots were out of position, leaving some passengers stranded. Earlier, the travel correspondent Simon Calder told us people need to check before they travel.
We saw over 150 cancellations yesterday, 48 from Gatwick to and from Gatwick, 42 at London City Airport, 40 at London Heathrow, plus some at Manchester, Luton and other airports. And on top of that, I'm afraid Saturday hasn't begun brilliantly. British Airways has cancelled 18 flights so far to and from Heathrow, another 4 at Gatwick, and there's cancellations also at London City. So if you are flying today, good luck.
Boost growth or get out of the way. That is the message from Sir Keir Starmer to UK regulators. The Prime Minister, the Chancellor and Business Secretary have all asked watchdogs, including Ofgem and Ofwat, to propose pro-growth reforms by mid-January. It follows figures showing the UK economy flatlined between July and September. Labour, though, says it is pulling every lever to deliver the highest sustained economic growth in the G7. But the Conservatives blame the government's policies for stalling progress. And GB News can reveal today that 1,300 migrants have now crossed the English Channel since just Christmas Day, and hundreds more crossed today. It comes as the Home Office confirmed 305 arrived yesterday in 5 small boats. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp blames Sir Keir Starmer for scrapping Conservative measures like the Rwanda plan, saying that Labour's approach is an insult to British people. The Prime Minister, though, has promised to smash the gangs, but that comes as more than 22,000 people have now arrived since he took office, up 25% on last year's figures. Those are the latest headlines for now. Nana will be back with you straight after this short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around, but already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here, but still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then we're seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places, and really it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing, but further south a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon we should see brighter skies developing, and with the increase in sunshine we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground, and that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, with potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? 21 minutes to go. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio as well. Don't forget, you can download the GB News app. It's completely free and you can watch all the programmes in your leisure. But it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should we send more prisoners to open prisons? The former Conservative Justice Secretary, David Gauke, has suggested that more prisoners should go to open prisons to help reduce reoffending, saying that the focus should be on rehabilitation, which would allow inmates to leave prison to study, work and do other things during the day. But would this be a sensible approach, or is it simply allowing people to escape proper punishments for their crimes? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we send more prisoners to open prisons? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Lee Harris, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. It seems to me that we're looking for excuses to reduce the prison population because we're running out of space, rather than it being for the actual reasons that David Gauke, if that's how you pronounce his name, is saying. It just seems pathetic to me. We just need to build more prisons and stop, dumbing down effectively our sentencing a bit. Now, there is a flip side to that. We have seen some very severe sentencing, as we were talking about earlier, with regards to some hurty words on social media and people having to spend years in prison, which is utterly ludicrous. But I just don't like the idea of us, because we have a physical, a logistic, like a space issue, that we are then looking at changing how the system works and putting people into open prisons. That's not doing it for the right reasons. Fine, if there's some evidence that it helps with rehabilitation, I'll accept that.
But Stephen did say that. Stephen said it was good because you go from a Category A prison, which is the toughest of the toughest, to suddenly being released. Whereas there should be a sort of structurally kind of coming down the step ladder type thing to the more open prison gradually towards the end of your sentence.
I'm open to having a discussion about the way, the sentencing in general for whatever the crime is. That, fine, have the discussion. I just know deep down that they are doing this because we're running out of space in prisons. What we need to do is we need to build more prisons, not make the law more lenient.
Alex Cairns.
Sentencing more.
Perhaps if we brought back the death penalty, we could...
I'm not going to bring back the death penalty. Oh, no. Where are we going with this?
Free up some space, yes.
No, but actually, they were criticised quite heavily. But actually, there was... They brought in the guy that runs Timpson. I've forgotten his name now.
Timpson.
Yeah, James Timpson. And he actually independently looked at it and said, actually, it's overcrowded. There's too many people that are there. About a third that are in prison shouldn't be there. They release people for, obviously some potentially you can argue wasn't minor offences, but a lot of them were minor offences. And actually, there's a lot of people that go to prison that shouldn't, I think they're trying to look at the long-term solution and actually see prison not necessarily as somewhere that you go indefinitely, but getting them back into society and getting them back into the workforce.
What's wrong with that? Is that really a deterrent, though? What's the deterrent if I think, oh, well, do you know what, I'll go to prison and then I'll get all my qualifications, my exams, I'll be good to do this, and I've got food, shelter. I mean, a lot of people who were released from prison when Keir Starmer released a load of people to make place and make space for people who had made hurty words. But when he released lots of people from prison, some of them didn't want to come out because they said, oh, you know, we had 3 meals a day here, it was nice and warm. And some of them ended up straight back in there.
Well, the prison system's been like that for a long time, actually. A lot of people have been playing PlayStation. It's been quite a cushy number. Actually, they're not necessarily saying for murderers or rapists that they're going to let them out and go back into the workforce.
Well,
they're saying, well, from what I've seen from the reports, actually, they're saying that quite a lot of people that commit minor to mild offences, they want to get them back into being an active part of society. What's wrong with that?
Well, what about foreign prisoners then? People who have committed crimes, who are from another country and they're in this country. Surely we could send at least 10,000 of them. We could send them back. Why don't we do that? Would that be acceptable?
No, I don't think it would.
Why?
Because we shouldn't be sending anyone back. In this country, when they're already in this country, we're going to get them actively back into society.
Some countries, if you commit crimes there, you be sent straight back to your home country. You'd be thrown out.
Well, yeah, but we're not like those countries. We're not going to do North Korea and just get rid of people.
America. We're not getting rid of people. America does that.
Oh, but America still has the death penalty in some parts of the country.
Yeah, some states, but so what?
Do you want to bring back the death penalty?
I do, actually.
Well...
But that's in some states. It's up to the individual states, so some states don't. So there are some states in America where the death penalty is not happening there. So, you know, we could use America for either example. But what are your thoughts? And do you think, what if we have a death penalty? That would work, wouldn't it?
I don't like the death penalty at all.
Why?
Because I don't want... look, if someone commits a crime where they kill someone, they rape someone, just killing them is not... It's just... they're going to be put...
What do you mean, just killing someone?
But, like... killing someone and then basically killing them themselves, that's not... They're going to go to prison to you know, be in a box, basically, for the rest of their life.
Well, why do we have to pay for that, though? You see, in my view, if somebody's committed a heinous crime, you know it's them. If it's on... A lot of them are on camera, even they don't even care. They're brazen about it, and we know it's that person. Then I don't see why society should continue to pay for this person to exist, when most of the time they're never coming out. So, in my view, I think it's a waste of energy. Am I wrong?
No, I agree. For certain crimes, I think, you know, I'm sure we can all agree on what those crimes are, that we should bring back the death penalty. I think there is a good case for that. But going back to your original point, what I cannot get my head around is why Keir Starmer decided to release, what was it, 2,000 or 5,000 prisoners when we have 10,000 foreign nationals that have broken our laws and are in our prisons that could have easily been deported. Now, he called it an emergency. Even if you don't want to have a permanent policy, which I would, by the way, of deporting foreign prisoners, I would absolutely... Once they've served their sentence, they get out of this country. They should not be staying in a country where they have broken the law. That's why I have a problem with immigration. Illegal immigration, because the first act that they are committing is they are breaking the law to get into this country.
Because they're desperate.
But what if someone commits
they're not
a crime?
desperate.
But what if someone committed a crime? We could go around in circles with that one. But what if someone commits a crime, instead of them being sentenced in this country, they're sent back to their own country to serve the sentence there? That's the point I'm making. I'm saying you serve your sentence elsewhere. And there's thousands of people doing that, serving their sentence.
Yeah, there has been some cases of that. I think I read a case that there was a case in... might have even been China. Yeah, if that's the case, I would absolutely...
Well, we could free up space. You know, if the problem is that it's overcrowded, then stop putting people in prison for not paying the TV licence. Don't put people in prison for hurty words. And, you know, give them community service, give them a punishment, but it doesn't have to be prison. I think we need to be a bit cleverer. And I think we actually... Stephen said we send too many people to prison. He's been to prison. He's an ex-offender. He knows. And I think that we should listen to people who've been to prison and hear what their views are on how things could be improved. But if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
There's a lot of fine weather to come across many of the usual holiday hotspots in southern Europe through the next few days. A different story across the southeast of Europe, though. Here's Storm Elena bringing some heavy rain, strong winds across parts of Greece into Cyprus and into Turkey as well. Elsewhere, though, like I said, lots of dry weather on offer, and with that, lots of sunshine too. So not looking too bad at all if you're heading across many parts of southern Europe through the next couple of days. Bye-bye.
Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
Well, coming up, my quick fire quiz where I test my panel on some of the other stories that have hit the headlines. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Oedipus is back in the theatre, as Stefan Kyriazis can tell me. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
A good Oedipus or a bad one?
It's a great one. It's divided the critics a little bit. So some would prefer more kind of truth to the original text, perhaps a little bit more sense of the kind of epic Greek tragedy. I mean, this is Sophocles. It's 2,500 years old, and it's still one of the best, literally, no pun, the mother of all tragedies. It's just absolutely staggering. You like that?
I did. Where and with whom?
So this one is on at the Wyndham Theatre until January the 4th. The exciting thing is Mark Strong as Oedipus, Leslie Manville as his wife, Jocasta, and it's been reframed, you'll see from the pictures, as a modern political thriller. So he is waiting for election results, general election results, you will remember. There's a clock ticking down in the background. They're at Campaign HQ. They're waiting for it to click down to zero. We increasingly know that when it hits zero, terrible truths are coming. So it's operating on two levels. He's obsessed with the truth. He says very famously, I am me. He's so proud of his sense of who he is. And of course, that's all going to be horrendously ripped away. Mark Strong is wonderful. And then when we get to the very end and the horrific final reveal, I forgot. I was so gripped in the political thriller and everything else, I actually swore under my breath in the theatre, Michael, because I just had been so engrossed, and they play very well at other mysteries going on and a family drama, that when my penny dropped, I literally was devastated, and they do it. Even the critics that haven't loved this reframing admit, the two of them, and especially at the end, it's searingly agonising. It's glorious.
2,500 years later,
yeah,
it's still absolutely visceral.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, welcome. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. It's time now for the Quickfire Quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories that have hit the headlines. And it is, of course, the final Quickfire Quiz of 2024. So joining me, political commentator Lee Harris. Lee, your buzzer, please. And also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Your buzzer, please. And as ever, please play along at home. Good luck. Question 1, multiple choice. Which country finished top of the Paris Olympics medal table? Was it A, China, B, the United States, or C, France? Lee Harris.
China.
China. Press your buzzer. You've got an answer. Say one of them.
Yeah, USA.
USA. The answer is the United States. Yeah. First with 126. Great Britain finished 7th with 65 medals. Somewhere else.
Second.
Question 2. An open question. What did Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer confuse hostages with during his Labour conference speech? Lee Harris.
Unbelievably, sausages.
Yes, I've already had that clip. I'd like to play that. It was indeed, remember, release the sausages.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And
how can you forget?
We do actually have the clip. Let's have a look.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages. The hostages.
He should have been sacked for that alone.
Yeah. Question 3, closest answer wins. How many seats did the Liberal Democrats win in this year's general election? Lee Cairns. Oh, no, you're not Lee Cairns. Alex Cairns. Alex Cairns.
72.
Press your buzzer, Lee, if you want. Lee Harris.
65.
All right, closest answer wins. I think it was more than that. Are you right? It was 72.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. He got something right. Yes.
I've got 2.
He's got 2, actually. Ed Davey's party significantly increased their seat numbers from 12, the 12 they won in 2019, and they received over 3.5 million votes, but it was about 500,000 less than Reform UK. Question 4, open question. What is the Oxford Dictionary word of the year?
Oh.
Alex Cairns.
Immigration.
Go on, press your buzzer, Lee. Say Come on.
I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those kids' words.
It's brain rot. That's
no.
Happening.
I thought it would have been immigration.
I did not know that.
What's happening to you there?
That was definitely what was happening to me, yeah.
It's actually, the definition was supposed a deterioration of the person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material. Brain rot or whatever it is. Yes?
Yeah.
Did you get that? No? OK. Final question, question 5. Multiple choice. What was the most watched show on Boxing Day this year? Was it A, Squid Game, B, Love Actually, or C, A Crackling Fireplace? Lee Harris.
Love Actually.
And Alex Cairns.
Squid Game.
Neither. It was A Crackling Fireplace.
Oh.
Yes, the hour-long crackling Birchwood fireplace edged out the new series Squid Game for the top UK slot and streaming service of Netflix on Boxing Day evening. It features footage of a burning wood on an open fire on a loop. Wish I'd thought of that. Well, listen, thank you so much. Listen, it's been really good fun today. Throughout the show, I've been asking, should Nigel Farage take legal action against Kemi Badenoch? And according to my Twitter poll, 72% of you said yes, and just 28% of you said no. Well, another rip-roaring show, hopefully tomorrow. Thank you so much to my panel, political commentator Lee Harris, and also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns, for joining me today. And thank you so much for you at home. My quiz winner today was Alex Cairns, yeah!
Yeah, baby!
You want something that lasts. Listen, stay with me. Thank you for your company. Coming up next to Saturday 5. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Enjoy.
Congratulations.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. Well, as we look ahead towards the New Year period, it does look like the weather is turning distinctly unsettled, with potentially some wet and windy weather for New Year itself. At the moment, we still have high pressure hanging on, maintaining the rather murky conditions for most of us, but this cold front will continue to sink its way southeastwards, and that will finally clear a lot of the mist and fog away. But for most of us, Saturday evening to the early hours of Sunday morning, we maintain with some rather poor conditions across many parts of England and Wales. Scotland sees this band of rain move in. Some of that will be quite heavy and persistent and accompanied by a strengthening wind. But for most of us, not a cold night, temperatures staying generally in mid-single figures. So we do start Sunday morning off on, again, a rather murky note across many southern parts of England. Again, some mist and fog around. But already some breaks in the cloud developing, especially across southwest England, eastern parts of Wales, but more particularly across northern England. Hopefully a much brighter start to the day here. But still maintaining the cloud across Northern Ireland, and then seeing this band of rain across Scotland. Again, some heavy and persistent rain in places. And really, it maintains that way across Scotland right throughout the day. Some heavy and persistent rain developing. But further south, a much brighter day compared to recently. It may well take its time across the far southeast of England, but even here by the afternoon, we should see brighter skies developing. And with the increase in sunshine, we should see temperatures slightly higher than they have been, potentially up to 10 to 12 degrees. Into the evening, very little changes. A lot of England and Wales largely dry with some clearer skies, but up across Scotland, we're seeing this band of rain. Some cold air tapping into it as well, so potentially turning into snow across the high ground, and that really sets us up for an unsettled New Year period, with potentially some wet and windy weather for some of us.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must